Okay, it looks like we're up and running.
We are.
Let's go ahead and call this meeting to order, be a regular meeting, December 9th, 2021. We do have a quorum. I don't see Mr. Fosha yet, but I'm guessing he'll be joining us. I haven't heard otherwise. Let's get started. Mark, is Patrick, can we let Patrick in?
Rob, is Patrick in the waiting room?
There's Justin.
He is, yes.
Okay, go ahead and admit him. Patrick, we are, you need to unmute yourself.
Morning.
And the floor is yours to give us the update.
Okay, well, I just wanted to, first of all, thank you for your support last year and let you know that it has been a busy year for both the Jackson Enterprise Initiative and the Grand Enterprise Initiative. The biggest challenge we're facing, and it's really become dire, is that people cannot find employees. And it's just been difficult. So we've been working hard on solutions to that. But there's nothing real easy to be found. It's either related to housing or just there's no people here, no people around to take jobs. In Grant County, just in the last month, I've had two businesses just throw in the towel and leave. One of them was a baby sitting service business. Month before that, we lost a company called Just Plain House. They clean rooms. Both of them just ran into the fact that the owners were having to do all the work and they had other stuff going on, and it's extremely challenging out there right now. Both of them were paying very well. It wasn't really so much a question of pay. It's just they can't get employees. On the positive side, we have opened several new businesses this year. The key characteristic of the businesses that are opening and succeeding is that they are usually 1 or 2 person operations, mom and pops or mom and family, and friends and family, and that's working. Those businesses are able to operate because they have people to man them. The good news is that we have the businesses coming into the county, just not everybody's able to handle it. And this is an ongoing issue. I don't think it's going to go away in a week or a year. It's related to housing. It's related to demographic changes we're seeing in the county. A lot of people are aging out of the workforce. It's just interesting. But like we have a bookstore in Winter Park, I had a new concierge service in Winter Park, expanded coffee shop operations in Granby. In North Park, we had a new store open up there. It was a liquor store. Now it's expanded to be more of a general overall retail type store. I'm working with 2 clients in North Park right now that are in the healthcare field. One, she hopes to open a dental teeth cleaning business up there, and she would be using the medical facility there. But we're working through planning and getting all the certifications involved and all that. And another is a home healthcare provider. But here, once again, the home healthcare provider now, she has several people she's working with, and there's a real demand for it. But now all these people that have these businesses are getting offered full-time jobs elsewhere. It remains to be seen what she's going to do with that. I'm still working closely with Melanie with North Park Heart and Soul. There's good things happening there. We're not unique in this problem. This is happening all over the state, actually all over a lot of parts of the country. It's a real interesting dilemma. But we have had good success, and people are still calling and asking for help. So I'm hoping that you guys can see it in your wisdom to continue to support the Grand Enterprise Initiative and the Jackson Enterprise Initiative as you have in the past. And I also enjoyed speaking at the regional rural electric cooperative meeting back in, that was September, I think it was. Anyway, that was on the Killdozer book, but thanks for letting me do that.
That was entertaining.
So
Thanks
that was
for
great.
that.
That was a great presentation you gave, Patrick.
Thank you.
We bought one of your books. We bought one of your books, and it keeps disappearing off of my coffee table. People like to borrow it. So
Yeah, well, I'm glad to hear that. So I'm open to questions if anybody has anything they want to bring up.
I noticed that it seems like
Patrick,
there's
can you
more.
kind of
Please go on.
can you recap your funding, Patrick, for us,
Sure. So
as far as where that comes from?
my biggest funder this for 2022 is a Granby donor, 40,000 there. And then I'm still waiting to hear on a rural economic development initiative grant that I applied for. I was supposed to know by the end of November, but I don't know what's going on. I just haven't heard. That's 30,000. And then I do get another 10,000 from Freeport McMoran, which is the Henderson Mine and Mill. And then little dribs and drabs. Winter Park helps support, usually to the tune of $4,000 or $5,000. I also have been given assurances on a Granby Roche fund for 2,500. That's about it. And you guys have been in the mix for 10,000. For the Jackson Enterprise Initiative, the funding is 10,000 from Northwest Colorado Council of Governments, which is really a Department of Local Affairs grant. And then that's matched by 5,000 from Mountain Parks Electric, and then 5,000 from the town of Walden. And Walden has committed, it's in their budget for next year, their 5,000 share of the match. You guys have been the other share of the match. And then I've talked to John Stabney. He says, yeah, we're in for next year with COG for Jackson.
Okay, thank you. Kristen, did you have something? Sorry.
Yeah, I had noticed that there's more active members of your initiatives in Jackson County than Grand County currently. Is that correct? And
That's a problem. That's a problem with that Excel spreadsheet. I usually have in Grand County anywhere from 10 to 15 active members at a time. And I don't know if you I've had a hard time figuring out why it doesn't do the active and unactive better. But and in Jackson County right now, what does it say I have active there? I'm looking here.
I think it says 7 active in Jackson.
Yeah, there's a reason for that. In Jackson, 2 of my clients right now, one of them has just gotten really, well, she got really sick and now she's living in Texas, but she owns a trailer park or a RV park in Walden. And this has delayed everything. So usually the software cuts you off after 45 days if I don't visit them, but I'm extending that because she's sick. We're going to see what's going to happen with that. I hope she gets well, but I don't know. She has pancreatic cancer. It's not a good thing. And it's the same with another client up there who, you know, it's not a regular contact every 45 days or so, but they do usually reach out again. So I keep them active longer.
Okay, and correcting myself, it says that there's 7 active for Grand County and 13 active for Jackson County. So I assume there's more than 7 that are active in Grand County?
Oh, yes.
Yes.
I'm just taking a look here at my spreadsheet. I usually can't handle, it's usually difficult for me to handle many more than 15 total active clients. It's pretty hard to keep up with that. So that's between both Jackson and Grand. So this time of year tends to be the slowest time of year. Activity usually picks up in early January, mid-January, I should say.
Anybody questions for Patrick?
Yeah, I was curious how the governance is going. Who's on your board these days, Patrick?
The board is the same as it was a year ago. Maurici Cipriani quit and vanished a year and a half ago. So Merritt Linke is the president of the board. And then the board members are Mike Perriollet, Wally Baird, and she's used to be the mayor of Fraser. I'm spacing out her name right now.
Peggy.
Peggy Smith.
Patrick, so the funding, that occurs typically the first of the year from us. Is that the case, or?
Yeah, what I've done is I've just sent an invoice after the first, and yes.
And
Okay.
Jeff, the board approved 3 of 3 years, and so 2022 is the third year of
Gotcha,
approval.
that's what I was thinking. Okay. All right, great. Well, thanks for the update, Patrick.
And like I said, it's interesting and it's a little challenging just for those reasons I cited. But people are still doing stuff. It's just that it's usually the smaller operators that are able to make it because they can do a lot of the work themselves. Owner operator with friends and family, that's what's really working right now. Other than the really big outfits, but the really big outfits like, the resorts and some of the large property management companies, they don't really need my help, but people getting started at the beginning end, they do. I mean, there's a huge demand in the county right now for all kinds of service workers in cleaning rooms, washing dishes, waiting tables. I mean, there's massive demand. Some of the people that can clean rooms form their own companies, and then they quickly get so overwhelmed that they need to hire people, and that's where they suddenly run into roadblocks. So thanks for your time, and just let me know what you guys decide. I hope you see it to fund this again next year. It's really a big help. It's a critical
Well,
part of
and
our-
Patrick, the board has already approved 2022. So if you send us the invoice for 2022, we'll go ahead and process that.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Have a good meeting. Thank you for letting me butt in at the beginning. So,
Thanks, Patrick.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Patrick. Merry Christmas.
you too.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
So Rob, is Mona in the waiting room?
She is not yet in the waiting room.
Okay, then if you let us know when she shows up, Jeff, I think we can go ahead and move on to the minutes and attorney's report, and hopefully she'll join us shortly.
She is here now.
Okay, go ahead and let her in. I just had to say that, and then she would show up, so. Good morning, Mona. We had asked Mona, she handles the CCL for CREA, and we work with her closely in putting our stuff together. And as the board had had some discussions related to CCL and the cost increase, we wanted to have Mona come and kind of do a little presentation to the board, talk a little bit about, they do surveys on the effectiveness of the magazine and other things. So with that, Mona, I will turn it over to you, and you can give us the information that you've got. And you're muted, Mona.
There we go. Now I can talk.
Very good.
Great. Well, I had talked to Mark and Rob a little bit about, some of your concerns and kind of, what you're thinking about with the magazine. And so I wanted to just give you a little bit of background and I hope eliminate some of those concerns. I'd like to start by reviewing why you send Colorado Country Life. And what the advantages are that it offers over simply sending a newsletter that's just all electric co-op news, or depending solely on digital communications. Just as part of that background, Colorado Country Life is one of 32 electric co-op magazines across the country. All of these magazines trace their beginnings back to the fifth co-op principle, which is education, training, and communications, which notes that communication is all about sharing the nature and the benefits of co-ops, particularly with the public, your members, opinion leaders, and helping boost the understanding of cooperatives. So it is really important to communicate with your consumer members and to share co-op information about, everything from rate changes to the challenges the co-op faces, to upcoming co-op events, and just all the ways that the co-op is looking out for its members. And Mountain Parks does a really good job of this. You're great at getting that information out to your consumer members in a variety of ways. And what's really important, beyond just making sure that you are getting the information out there, is presenting it in a way that it's heard. I mean, we can do a really good job of supplying the world with a lot of information, but if it's not presented so that they have the time to read it, that it connects with them, all those kinds of things. And I think that's where the magazine comes in. The magazine, with its really bright colors and its varied subjects featured on the cover, is designed to quickly capture your consumer members' attention when it arrives in the mail. We know we have a very short window of opportunity to grab people's attention and get them to open the magazine. I've always looked at CCL as a bit of a bait and switch publication. Like this month, when we put Dave Naples on the cover and his train displayed there in Granby. Like, who can't resist opening that magazine? They want to read about Dave and what he's got going on. And we've got, tons of train aficionados out there that love to read about anything that's train related. And once people open the magazine and start looking through the articles, they always discover something else of interest. They're reading along, they're reading about the train display, and then they see, a great recipe, and they see the co-op news. And, Rob does a great job of providing really interesting information that your members enjoy and want to read about, featuring lots of local people and providing all the information that the co-op needs to get out there. I know that, internally you've had some discussions about how many magazines you see discarded at your local post offices. And that's where the magazine, being really bright and colorful and attention getting, kind of hurts us, because it doesn't take many magazines to make a stack that looks like, oh my goodness, everybody's tossing their magazine who's reading it. But you have to remember, you mail about 16,000 copies of the magazine. So if you just take 10% of that, that's 1,600 magazines. And that's a big stack. That's a lot of magazines. But the other 90% are, going out. Or as the surveys I send out, it's more like 80%, but they don't all get tossed at the post office. So 20% aren't being read, but 80% is. And there's no way you're going to get more readership with other alternate ways to communicate with your members. I'm don't like to say it, but your average person is just not that interested in electric news. If they're looking for something specific, they will go to your website and look it up. They'll ask questions, but on a day-to-day basis, just a digital newsletter coming into their email, they may or may not open it. Digital communications is often seen as informational, and it's important that you have that information there. And I think you do a good job of having that there available on your website. Where magazines are more inspirational. So Colorado Country Life is where you develop a relationship and a connection with your consumer members, where you can explain more about why you're adjusting rates. You'll post your rates on your website and people will go there to go, oh, what is my rate or what's this information? But the magazine gives you an opportunity to explain why you're adjusting your rates. The magazine is where you can explain how you're working for them in different ways they wouldn't even think to look up because they don't realize everything that goes on behind the scenes at a co-op. The magazine is where you can explain the importance of them attending an annual meeting. The annual meeting will be posted on your website. They can go there, they can find the time, they can register, all those kinds of things. But the magazine gives you an opportunity, often through things like Mark's column, to explain why it's really important that they are involved. And some recent research that the statewide publications got from I believe it was the Magazine Publishers Association, showed that recent surveys noted that paper-based reading often stimulates emotions and desires. It drives sensory involvement. It requires more focused attention than when you're just scanning something on a screen. And therefore, it's done at a little bit slower rate of reading, which all leads to higher comprehension and more recall about what you have just read. And paper-based reading for magazines is preferred by the majority of people out there, including millennials. We had a big swing toward digital magazines 5-6 years ago, but that's kind of swung back the other way. And getting this higher comprehension and engaging your consumer members on an emotional and a sensory level leads to a better connection with your consumer members. And the magazine helps kind of, quote unquote, build your brand. I mean, it helps you get your co-op story out there, which is what it's all about. And we know this works. We know that once people open the magazine, they come back for more and they welcome Mountain Parks Electric through the magazine into their home month after month after month. And I had sent out some survey results, I think, for Rob to share, Mark to share with you all. And if you look at those, that's our most recent survey. We're actually in the process of going into the field for another survey that I think the questions will go out in January to survey readers. But with this survey, it does show that more than 80% of those receiving the magazine do open it. And readership is noted, I think, on about the 5th page of the information that I had forwarded to you. And on the next page, you'll notice that nearly 50% of those receiving the magazine spend 30 minutes or more with the magazine. I mean, they're keeping it there. And that compares favorably with digital newsletters, that if you send a digital newsletter, you're usually thrilled if 20% of the people that received it open it. That doesn't have anything to do with how long they spend there or how much they read, but if they just open it, you have done a really good job in getting that out there. I also sent some other pages from the survey that show what readers like to read in the magazine. And if you go to the last page of the survey, I think it's table 19, you'll see that 90.8% of readers do prefer their magazines in written form. Now, that doesn't mean that Mountain Parks shouldn't have a digital presence. It's important to meet your consumer members where they are and provide them with the information that they need. It's important to have a great website where they can go to get their questions answered. And it's important to greet them on social media and remind them of events and projects and programs. But as a foundation for all of that, I think the magazine helps Mountain Parks create a foundational relationship with their consumer members and a connection that is just beneficial to maintaining that relationship with your members. And that's why I believe in Colorado Country Life, and I believe that it's really beneficial for all of you. So I'm happy to take any questions and have a discussion about how this is working for you. I should also mention that we do hear from your members. They're very active in those areas of the magazine that are open to having your members connect with us. I mean, we get funny stories and we get photos with the magazine that they take when they travel. We get a lot of poetry from up your direction, letters to the editor. We try to make sure that your members can connect with you through us, and that we represent you well. So.
Mona, I would say I don't see a lot of, at the Grand Lake Post Office, I don't see magazines in the trash. And I'd say, what you said is really true, that I would say the majority of the comments and questions I get as a director stem from that magazine. So
I see
I
almost
think it
all
does
of them in
work.
the trash, to be honest. I'm just curious, how did you come by that result that 50% of readers spend 30 minutes on that? I mean, that's great if true, but if it's self-selected survey participants, I wonder how that could be legitimate.
We work with our national organization, and we hire a firm out of New York to do a scientifically valid survey. And they help us craft those questions. And in fact, that was the phone call I had yesterday, was working with, what kinds of questions we should ask our readers in this upcoming survey.
But
So
how are the members who take the survey selected?
we do it's an nth name from the list. So we have to do, I believe we have to get 1,500 addresses into them. And so we look at our list and we go every so many people. It's just a random drawing of who those people are going to be.
And then what's the response rate?
That's a good question. I'd have to go back and look for sure, but we make so that it becomes scientifically valid. I think it's 35% or something like that they have to get back. If there's a certain number, a minimum, that if you don't get that many, it's not considered scientifically valid. So, and it's an expensive survey to do, but I think it's valuable, and we use it for readership, and we also use it, our national ad rep firm uses it for selling advertising and showing advertisers that, yes, we have this major subscription base, and people are reading it, and what kinds of things they want to learn about it, and how often they travel. And it's like a 3 or 4 page survey. So.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Mona, you said you were interested in meeting the members' reading needs, and you talked about it being sort of inspirational. I think it's inspirational, but also I tend to think of magazines as being somewhat more viewed as almost entertainment. I mean, entertainment is how they get you in the door, and then you learn things. But I was curious, given the CREA speaker at last week's conference, who was talking about, meeting your customers or members, not where they are now, but where they're going.
Right. Yes.
Where do you think, or going there before they even know that they want to go there? So how does that play into your strategy?
Well, it's a challenge. It's definitely a challenge, because I do think people are moving more digital, and how to be there ahead of them. And that's where I really appreciate being part of the national group. I mean, I think it's just like, you guys as board members and meeting with board members from across the country, and what are they doing, those kinds of things. So we have worked together with other statewide magazines to, see what works as far as trying to provide digital communications, because I think we have to figure out how to get there and how to maintain that readership while we're there. Colorado Country Life does offer a digital newsletter to our magazine subscribers. You have to be a magazine subscriber, and then you can offer this. And I don't know if, I think most of you, trying to think if we have all the board members on that list or not, but it's called CCL Extra, and it goes out twice a month to people that have signed up for it. And a lot of the, like if you enter a contest, we ask you as part of your entry form, would you like to receive digital communications from Colorado Country Life? And we get, we're building the mailing list that way. But that newsletter goes out, it goes out after the magazine has gone out. The first version goes out, and it's kind of a, hey, your magazine came in the mail. Did you open it up? Make sure you check these stories. And then it has links to those stories, so if you just want to read them online. And then toward the end of the month, we send a copy out that says, hey, here's what's coming next month. Watch for, this story that's going to be coming. This is exciting. Watch for it in the mail, that kind of thing. So trying to, one, build a base of email addresses so that we can send these kinds of things out, and to offer a digital version to co-ops that want to communicate that way with their members. And in that newsletter at the very top, it says, it introduces it as CCL Extra, and then it has a bar that says connect with your local co-op. And there's a link there for them to go to the map, and then they can figure out, which co-op is theirs, and then they can click to your website if that's what they're looking for. But looking forward, we've looked into some more sophisticated software that would allow us to, like, once they go there, register their address, and then we would link them to their co-op. And then every time they came to that, it would be automatically there, they would automatically connect to their co-op, kind of thing. So we're looking at what's coming and trying to be able to figure that out. But it all takes a lot of money. And this year, all my money is going toward paper and postage. So we're trying to figure out how to do that and work with others so that brings some of our costs down.
On a national level, has there been any thought to a magazine app?
There has
platform?
been some. We I have to think. North Carolina had one of its co-ops said, we want to send everything digital. And I'm glad they did it, not us. But so they went digital with a magazine app. And they spent over $100,000 developing this so that they had that software. So their people would log in, if they logged into the site, they would immediately go to their co-op's version of the magazine, and they would get there. And they took like 1.5 years to develop it, and they spent 2 years promoting it. And I think that co-op had 80,000 members. In the East Coast, they have so many co-op members, and they got 800 people involved and pulled the plug because it just was not cost effective. So that was one. Texas, I'm watching them and I'm kind of liking the way they're doing things. What they have done is they've worked with a website developer, and they've actually developed a magazine web page. And it's more than just a page for each one of their subscribing co-ops for their magazine. And so they're not doing the newsletter, but they're doing that. Like if you want to read it online, here's where you go and you immediately get that. And I haven't seen the results yet to know if it's a direction we want to go. I like their direction, but I'm kind of watching what they're doing and staying in touch with them on that.
I'm kind of thinking like something you'd have on your phone. You're driving through the country, you press on the app, the magazine for the local co-op comes up. Not that I'm guessing I'd probably be the only person in the country that would use this app, but I just think of, like you said, there's so much people are. I frankly, the magazine over time has won me over. So has it, and it's something that in our household we've always read from, the time we became co-op members. It's just something different.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think that I know how my news reading habits have changed, and so much of it is digital, and it's easy to get to. It seems like, again, your speaker talked about reducing the friction between I want pizza and having it in your mouth.
Right.
I want knowledge about X, Y, and Z. What's the friction that is between our members and whatever they're trying to find? And it seems like apps are one of those ways that make things easier for people to get to whatever news source. And so I wouldn't think that CREA necessarily would be the one that would, it seems like it would have to be done on a national level, and there are plenty of tools. But I'm not sure it's relevant yet. It just crosses my mind that having, if there are 32 magazines, not having everybody do a one-off and spend a tremendous amount of money on
Right.
it.
The struggle with apps, and I run into this because we do the legislative directory as an app,
Right.
and we also do the CREA directory, but that's not a true app. It acts like an app, but it's not, which makes it much easier and much cheaper to deal with. But the legislative directory app, it takes a lot of money to get it built, which our app, actually, we work with the statewide in Tennessee. And so we do a lot of sharing of the cost of making sure that's app. But what happens is you get your app out there, and you have to do it for Android and Apple so that everybody can connect to it. And then they upgrade. Apple goes to a new operating system, Android goes to a new system, and you have to rewrite the whole app. And it's a continual, incredible expense to make sure that you can stay current, and you're at the whim of the phone developers. If they decide they're just going to do a small upgrade, you make a few tweaks, and then the next year they'll come out and they go, well, we rewrote our whole operating system, and you start from ground zero all over again, rewriting the app. So that's been the challenge I've had with apps, and trying to figure out how to keep them current, and we all love our apps, because every time you go on, every time you get an update, you get something new that clicks through automatically. So that's the struggle with that, is just, and then how to monetize that, so that right now the advertising that we sell in the magazine really helps keep your costs down. And I'm happy to report that my January book is packed with the advertising. So we're off to a really good start in 2022. So that's exciting. But trying to figure out how to monetize it is the other side of that, because on an app, you're just going to get like the article. So you're not going to see the ad that's next to it in the magazine page per se. So you have to go with sponsorships or those kind of ads that we all get on things, where you have to see the ad before you can get to the story, which people don't really enjoy either. So but it is things we're thinking about, and I love hearing, from you all, if there's, hey, I saw this might be a way we could do something, send it my way, because we are constantly looking forward and trying to figure out how we can be ahead of where our members are going to be, because that speaker was very scary last week.
How do we get those apps you mentioned?
The legislative app, you just can go on and search for, I think it's CREA Colorado Legislative App. And you can just download that one. And we keep that one pretty current with there's changes at the legislature and stuff. And we're bringing out the paper directory will be in the January issue, or your co-ops can buy copies of that or send it to your members or whatever you want to do. But that app now, it's free, and it just rolls forward and it just gets updated. So you just have
was there a directory one you said?
Yes, for the CREA directory, we use a company called Directory Spot. And so if you go to the CREA website, because that's not open to the general public, but as a board member, it would be open to you.
Yep.
But you go to the CREA website, and I think under who we are, you click on members, and then it goes over to register for the directory app or something like that. And you fill out a form, and then we approve it and send you directions on how to download it.
Did I do this on my computer or my phone?
I think you have to do the computer for the directory app to get the I believe you have to do it on the computer. But then you've got it. So, and that it's not updated now. We're gathering all the information, and we're getting so much right now that we haven't got in there to update the directory app, but we hope to have it updated by mid-January. So. Any other questions or comments or ideas for great stories? We've been getting great stories on Mountain Parks territory lately. It's been fun.
Well, thank you, Mona.
Sure. Well,
I got,
thanks.
I got a question. Are you in the CRA boardroom?
I'm in the conference room.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say it looked kind of familiar. I haven't seen it for a while, but
Yeah. Yep. No, I'm in here. So we've got that window that faces the east. So I get, I'm not in a shadow with my face. So it's a good place to have a meeting when I need to.
How'd the postage end up?
Well-
Were the drop shipping, was that a possibility that any of that?
The drop shipping didn't work. But we're working on moving our mailing lists from the current company that we have been working with to our printer. We had a third party processing the mailing list, and that had worked really well for years. And they've had some employee changes and just other things are shaking out. And the printer has upgraded its processing division. And so we're going to make that change. We had like a 90-day requirement to let them know we were going to make the change. So we're going to make that change in April. And they had looked at our lists and they believe they can save us some money on the postage. Plus it's going to save us a little bit of money on the processing fees. So we're, trying to find savings everywhere we can. So, but we continue to work that and, just looking at meeting with the post office too and trying to figure out anything we can. I think once we kind of get things settled down with this and make the move in March, we may be doing some workshops with like your people, like how to prepare addresses or how to input addresses so that they get the best, it connects the best way with the post office. There's just some goofy things like, a lot of us just, it's County Road 12 or whatever, and we write out County Road. I know some of them, Weld County is infamous. They always write Weld County Road 12, and the post office system kicks that out because they're not supposed to have the county name on there. It's just supposed to be County Road 12. So it's just those little things that move it from the flies through the system fast, gets cheaper postage to the moves up a notch and you get charged a little bit more kind of thing. So we'll be working on that to help everyone clean up their lists.
Mona, this is Carl. A question you mentioned about advertising in the magazine. When was the last time that you updated the fees for advertising, and is there opportunity there to decrease the fee and get more advertising, or can you speak a little bit about that?
Sure. We actually just adjusted our rates this year. A lot of it's due to, a couple of different things that we've adjusted because of the paper and postage rates. Advertisers are expecting a little bit of an adjustment in that area, but we also sell some advertising on a cost per thousand. So as my subscription rates change, or my subscription number of my number of subscriptions changes, then those rates. So the more we're mailing, the more, money we're getting for them. We try to find that balance between charging absolutely as much as we possibly can and keeping them in the magazine, so it's, and especially our Colorado advertisers, we always negotiate with them and try to make it, what's fair for them and what covers our costs, make sure it's not costing us, to include them, and always trying to develop new advertisers that are willing to pay more. And that's the national ad rep firm. And I'm on the board of directors for, it's called American Main Street Publications. And we have been working with national ads because national advertisers, they buy across the country and they pay much higher rates. So we get a lot more money for each one of those, full page ads than we would selling just locally.
How much is it for a local business to advertise in just our version of the magazine we send out?
And I don't have that chart in front of me, but it's ballpark, I would say $100 an inch, which is a column inch is 1 column wide and 1 inch high. So it kind of, we have them split off it's a little bit different for each co-op because you're mailing to a different number of people. You're mailing to 15,000. If someone buys an ad in Mountain View's version, they're mailing to 40,000. So those rates, and we only have so many pages in the magazine that are available to just local advertisers. Essentially, the pages that are available are opposite your newsletter because your local pages are going to be flipped out. And so we're flipping out those same pages in the back of the book. And if we stay on those pages, there's no additional cost to us because those costs, it's a plate change, and a plate change can be up to $400 if it's 4 color. So that would make it exorbitant and the local people wouldn't be able to pay that. So we keep them on those pages so they're just paying for access, not for that cost of making the plate change. So
when you go out and ask for advertisers, how do you promote advertisers in, say, Mountain Parks territory? I mean, I never see anything that says advertise in Country Life and you'll get results or whatever. But how do you promote advertisers in Mountain Parks territory?
We don't have a lot of promotion in the specific co-op territories. There's usually an ad in there, often on the marketplace page, that says, call these numbers for advertising. Because those ads they add a little revenue, but a small ad takes a lot of time, and we are just a small staff. And so if they call and ask for an ad or something, and we do get calls on a regular basis, but we are more expensive than like your local paper. And we just don't have the staff to do a lot of, in 20 or 15 different areas to actually go sell ads in those areas, unless we had some kind of a special project that we were maybe working with the co-op on that we wanted to promote, then we would really gear in toward that. But local ads are mostly if they call us and want to advertise, then, we get that. So most of our advertising is through the national ad rep firm, and they have dedicated salespeople that's all they're doing is trying to sell ads into the co-op magazines. And the one we keep working really hard trying to crack is for motor companies, cars and trucks and stuff like that. And like with the new Rivian electric pickup truck that's coming out, we're trying to get our foot in the door with them. They've also been working really closely with Ford. And now that Ford's building that new EV pickup plant in Tennessee and in co-op territory. So we have this new in with them because they're actually going to be on, I guess they bought 3,000 acres that they're building this huge plant on, and it is in 2 co-ops territory because it crosses the co-op lines. So we're really working with them. The national ad rep firm has an ad rep that's been in Detroit trying to, work his way into getting audiences with those big car companies. And we've made some really significant progress there. So we're always working on those kinds of things, and trying to figure out where we can find advertising that fits our people and that we would like in our magazines. You'll notice in the January issue, we're going to have another American Cruise Line ad in there. And that's been another one that they're still testing our market. But they had really good success when we did one, I think in August or something like that. We had American Cruise Lines. So we're always just looking for opportunities to get those really nice national ads.
If Mountain Parks were to take on an initiative, and I'm not promoting this, but just a question, to get local advertisers to advertise in CCL, do you have the staff to handle that? And then would our fee for Country Life decrease because the advertising would only go into our magazine?
I would have to look at that and see how we could do that. I mean, it's not just the staff to deal with it. It's if the advertising is going in your magazine, it has to replace something else that's going in all of the other magazines. So we're always balancing that, you know, and a lot of times it will be if we're running an ad in just mountain parks. So I think an example last year after the fires, we had a restoration company that really wanted to target mountain parks and say, you know, we can come in and help you with damage to your home and this kind of stuff. So they ran a 2-column by 10-inch ad, I think opposite outdoors in the back. And I believe that what we ran in the other magazines, the other versions, was like poetry on that. So your people didn't see the poetry, they just saw the ad. So we always have to balance, and we only have so many pages that are available for advertising. So if we were going to do a real concerted effort and try to make sure that we were going to run a full page of advertising geared toward mountain parks that was just in your issue, that full page would replace a full page of something in the others. And I always have to struggle if it would replace a full page of advertising that some other advertiser had wanted to buy all of the magazines, and they're paying me $5,000 for that page, and I'm replacing it with something that you're running. I have to make sure that I'm getting the money that I need, or I'm losing money on it. There's a lot of balancing that goes on to make sure it's going to work well for everybody. So I don't have a real straight, yes, we can do this. This is what would happen. I would have to look at it.
Well, answer this question then. The ad that you just mentioned about the restoration service that only ran in Mountain Parks territory,
Mhm.
did we get credit for that in some fashion with a reduced fee for Country Life?
No,
Okay.
no, it's just all part of the overall budget of the magazine. So, no.
Any other questions for Mona?
Thank you, Mona. Thanks for explaining. I hadn't really thought about how the ads work, so thank you, Carl, for bringing that up. But
Yeah.
yet, like, if you were to take an ad out, you know, you're already getting revenue for that space. You're just replacing that revenue with revenue from mountain parks. So
Great.
more work. But I understand, Carl, you know, it is when you look at the readership numbers and the time spent, it could be a valuable place for local folks.
Sure.
So,
Yep. Well, thank you. I really appreciate you guys taking time to just meet with me today and give me a chance to promote Colorado Country Life. And I look forward to hearing from all of you. So just, you know, let me know if you do ever have any questions, or if you ever see anything that you have, you know, wonder about, let me know. I really love hearing from all you guys. So,
Hey, thank you. Have a Merry Christmas.
you too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
I have a quick question for Rob. Or internally, when somebody signs up as a new service, do we opt them into the Country Life immediately?
They can opt out of Country Life. We don't automatically opt them in. However, in my report, we're going to talk about some changes that we're going to make to how we're doing the CCL, and as a way to address the price increase and lower our cost.
Okay. And then just if people leave, if you could address that later, if when we lose a member, how we address that too.
Okay. Let's move on to minutes of previous meetings. We got the November 11th minutes in front of us. Has everybody read them? Any questions, comments, additions, corrections?
Move to approve the minutes.
Ms. Kristen, got a motion by,
Jeff, I had a couple questions.
go ahead, Levi.
On page 2, under the safety report, just wanted to make sure we were being clear, the last sentence of that first paragraph. When it says fortunate that no one has been hurt, that can be read a couple different ways. I just wanted to make, I wasn't there, so I just wanted to make sure we're saying what we want to say there. I wasn't there, so I'm not sure what was intended by that comment, if anybody remembers.
We have been working with our employees, primarily the operations staff, to have them focus on small things, the tailboard meetings, maintenance of vehicles, walk-arounds to identify issues, so that the small things that they focus on prevent an accident from happening. And that's what the sentence before that was about. And I don't recall specifically what we said, but I think that focusing on the small things prevents the accidents is what we were getting at.
And so not some, like, one way I guess this could be read is there was like a very close call or something, somebody did something and we were fortunate no one got hurt, or no one's been hurt in an accident for a long time and we're fortunate for that. Is it the latter?
It's the latter. I mean, we have a significant number of hours without lost time accidents, and we have had some close calls and near misses, and that has had Brian, our safety person, focusing on small things, and then also with the operations staff, the superintendent and the what's Adam's title? Don?
General foreman.
General foreman. At the safety meetings, we've been including small things that we're trying to get everybody to focus on, those small things, so that we don't have any issues. Because go ahead. No, you go ahead.
Oh, so yeah, I was just going to say, maybe just to avoid the possibility of a misread, instead of saying fortunate that no one has been hurt, just say, no, there have been no injuries since the previous board meeting. Would that be consistent?
Either that, or I think we could just take that sentence out, because the gist of what we were trying to get across there was that we're trying to get people to focus on the small things so that we don't have large things.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Is the board happy with deleting that sentence?
I move to amend the minutes to remove the sentence at the end of the first paragraph under the safety report.
Okay.
I think Kristen made the motion initially. Kristen, would you?
I amend my motion to remove the phrase "fortunate that no one has been hurt" from the minutes of the November 9th meeting.
And before we go too far down that road, I think Levi may have something else, so we may want to see if there are other things that maybe we want to amend.
Hold that thought, Kristen.
Next page, so page 3, let's see, under action item G, after the motion, last sentence of that paragraph after the motion says, last sentence says, bylaw changes must be noticed 60 days prior to the vote. I'm not familiar with this, that 60-day requirement. So if somebody has that handy, I'd be happy to be educated. Otherwise, maybe just to delete that sentence. So for example, so bylaw amendments that go to the membership that will be approved at the annual meeting. The annual meeting requires 20, it's I think 10 to 25 or days notice for the annual meeting. Rob, if you're on and you have it off the top of your head. Go
Notice,
ahead.
Levi, I don't have that in front of me, but I
Sure.
could look into it again.
Yeah, but it's not 60 days for the notice for the annual meeting. So I didn't know, and I did a quick search and didn't find anything. So I'd recommend we delete that last sentence
It
unless
is
somebody
the-
said that.
Might have been something that your partner said. But if that is inaccurate, then we should amend that and take out that sentence.
Okay.
So I would move to amend the minutes as recommended by Attorney Williamson.
And then for executive sessions, we should try to list specifically for that who's all present, whether any staff are present, and well, yeah, anybody other than the board that's present. So just going forward, if we could take note of that.
I am helping
That's everything I had.
take notes going forward so we can have more robust meeting minutes. So hopefully we will have that, and I'll take note of that too, Levi.
Okay.
and Levi, a question on that. If we have an executive session where some staff is present for part of the executive session and then they leave, do you want the time that they left? Or, I mean, how do you do that? Because
I would typically do it by topic.
Okay.
Because that's typically they're there for a specific topic or topics, and I'm gone for others. So that's how I would do that. That's all.
Anything else, Levi?
Nope.
Okay. I think we have a
One quick
motion.
question.
Yeah,
Sorry,
Kristen.
it's related. In making notes on your iPad in here, I just figured out that when you then update the agenda, it gets rid of your notes. Is there a way to save those? Because when I came back to my minutes, none of them were there, and then I had to remember where everything was. Okay, no big deal. I'll ask Joe.
And Joe will be back next month. Well, actually, he'll be back next week, but he's not on today. So,
Okay.
So Jeff, I think Kristen made the motion, and then we need Dick to second it if he is so inclined.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. Everybody understand the motion? All those in favor? Anybody opposed? Okay, motion carries. Attorney's report, Levi, back up.
Just a sec. I don't have anything to report. I believe we have an executive session for later. Everybody should have received my email yesterday with my summer report, and I believe it, oh, no, didn't get in here, but I did email that out yesterday.
Levi, I had a question. In reviewing your bill, I noticed a lot of different items that you're discussing, from the legal standpoint, but I don't recall ever hearing any details about that in our meetings. And I don't know whether that's pertinent or not. I don't need to know what you're reviewing all the time, but I've noticed there are a lot of different areas in there that I don't seem to recall being discussed in the meeting. And I don't know whether that's necessary or not, or whether it should be an executive session. I discussed dealing with this, either property owner or member, things like that. And I don't recall any of that detail in our meetings. I'm just wondering how we become apprised of it other than looking at your billing.
I mean, that's pretty much it. If it's something that either Mark or I think needs to be brought to the board's attention, we do. If you want me to go over all of that, we'll have to change, or we'll have to probably change to 2-day meetings.
No, I just wasn't familiar with some of it.
Yeah, no, and you won't be. I mean, there's a lot of day-to-day legal issues, and there always have been.
As long as you and Mark feel comfortable.
Yeah, that's why I do give the detailed bill so that, you know, you can see those things. And if you have specific questions, obviously more than welcome to discuss those with you.
Oh, no, if the detailed bill becomes part of our meeting minutes. And
no, it doesn't become part of the minutes.
Okay, that was the thing, because then there might be questions from members. And
no, but you all get to see it. That's why I make sure you all see it.
Not a problem. I just wanted to clarify that so I understood how that was. Thank you.
Yep.
I apologize, Levi, that I missed adding that, but it is added to call to order now. So it will be.
No worries, Michelle. Yeah.
All right.
I got it out late. No worries.
Mark, this is Carl. I didn't receive the email, and I haven't received email since you did the update or whatever it is. I'm sure it's an issue with my service over here, but would you mention to Joe when he gets back to contact me or whatever, and let him know that I'm not getting any email?
Okay,
Carl, you
we'll
need to get with Joe to update your iPad. So
the iPad's been all updated, but I just don't get any email. The emails come through, but they're wiped clean for whatever reason. But just
one of
mention
those
it to him,
emails
please.
gave you instructions, I think. So yeah, you'll need to talk to Joe.
Yeah, and I will have Joe give you a call. What we have seen is with the move to Microsoft 365, that it is taking some emails which should be going through and it's putting them into the junk folder. And so you need to check the junk folder to see if some of them went there, because staff are seeing quite a few of those, and you can then tell it that this is not a junk email, and it will then, with any subsequent emails, send them. And there doesn't seem to be, as far as we can tell at this point, a rhyme or reason for what it determines to be potential junk or not. But I'll have Joe follow up with you.
okay, Mark, you're up.
Okay, community solar. Levi and I have been, we've reviewed a couple of drafts. We have made changes, sent them back. The latest draft that we received back from ISI, it didn't include some of the things, and they had made changes to some of the pieces that we need to have in the agreement. One of the areas that they've made changes to is the performance guarantee, and as they have changed it, it is not adequate. They had also made some changes to who is responsible for insurance, property taxes, and O&M. And specifically with the O&M, they made changes as to how it's handled. And we had a call on Tuesday with the president of ISI to go over these issues, and shared with him that some of these things are deal breakers for us, that we cannot sign an agreement unless we can get the information in there the way that we want it to be. There were changes specifically in the performance guarantee to the percentage of the guarantee. It went from 96 to 90. And we said that, they had given us the number at 96, and that's what we expected. And then they are also wanting to do it on a 3-year average. And we told them that does not work for us, that we don't want to wait 3 years to be able to get compensation for non-production or non-meeting of the production guarantee. So we're still working on that, but I think, may be close, that if they cannot come back to us with with adequate assurances on these items, then we may need to call it a day with this particular vendor related to the community solar. With the Winter Park land, After the last board meeting, the buyer provided us with a notice of termination of their offer. Our real estate agent has received contact from the neighborhood group working in concert with Headwaters and the town of Winter Park that they would be interested in making us an offer. What we told them is that we need to see something in writing and it needs to have terms, including a price. And as of now, we have not seen that. We did remove the listing for a time because we are taking the opportunity to discuss the issues that were raised by some of the testing done by the last buyer. And we're working with an environmental engineer to try and determine how those issues may in fact affect the price of the lot. There was a suggestion that we just lower the price, and I'm not willing to just lower the price, to see if we get someone to give us a bid on it. I would like to know from the environmental engineer's perspective, the effect of the items that were raised by the former buyer. And we'll take that into account before we determine what, if any, price adjustment we need to make on the lot. So I'll pause for a moment with those two items and see if anybody has any questions. Seeing none, we'll move on to FERC. I participated in the pre-hearing conference on November the 22nd. The ALJ that was assigned to the case had parties and interveners enter an appearance and make opening statements, which we did. The parties reviewed the draft schedule that had been put out by the ALJ, administrative law judge, and Tri-State and the interveners came up with some suggested changes to it. And on November 24th, Tri-State filed an unopposed joint motion to adopt the modified schedule and extend the Track 1 standards. Track 1 basically says that you have to do certain things and you have to be done by a certain time. With the changes to the procedural schedule, it was going to go beyond Track 1 standards. And so we ended up filing that and the request. The chief judge on December the 1st extended the Track 1 standards. And then on December the 3rd, the ALJ assigned approved the order that everybody had agreed to. On December 3rd, Tri-State filed an unopposed motion for adoption of a protective order. Basically, you have to fill out a non-disclosure page and file it in order to see confidential information. And all the parties agreed to the language. It was tweaked again. And on December the 7th, the ALJ issued an order adopting that protective order. And one of the parties, I believe it was United yesterday, actually sent out, or it may have been Tri-State in response to United's questions, sent out information. Some of it is marked confidential. So if you have not filed the NDA, which I will do probably tomorrow, then you get it, but there are portions of it that are redacted. And once we file the NDA, then that won't be an issue. I then participated in a technical conference that was put on for interveners and FERC trial staff on, I guess it was yesterday. And it was arranged by United Power, and they wanted to review their proposed balance sheet approach to calculating the contract termination payment. It was about 2 hours of discussion, and it wasn't necessarily attempting to move anybody in any direction. It was just trying to assist the interveners and FERC staff to make sure that they understood what United's proposal was. And so with that, I will stop to see if anybody has any questions on FERC.
Yeah, on the United proposal, well, one thing, what you sent out the other yesterday, it made me think you could perhaps clarify the part where it says only those who submit a proposal essentially on how the CTP should work can offer rebuttal testimony once all of those things are considered. And so I was wondering, if we do nothing, what is our ability to ask questions throughout the process or be involved? But then I also heard you talk about United's proposal. It seems like it'd be interesting to hear if you thought there were issues in that proposal that would be harmful or beneficial to Mountain Park's interests, and how you see Mountain Parks participating in that, if you do.
And I will give you the open session version. And if we want to discuss in more detail, then we can do that in executive session. Basically, the way testimony works is individuals will file testimony, and then others will file responsive testimony. And then the original party has the opportunity to file reply or rebuttal testimony to the original test or the response to the original testimony. And at this time, I had not planned on filing testimony, but that does not prevent us from being able to, during the hearing, ask questions of the parties, because the people that file testimony will most likely appear on the stand, and the parties then have an opportunity to cross-examine that person that filed the testimony. And typically the way it works is if Liz files testimony, then if Liz is with Tri-State, when they're putting on their case, will put Liz up on the stand, and they will ask questions such as, have you filed testimony in this matter? You say yes. Do you have any amendments, corrections, modifications to it? You say no. Or if you have some, you tell them. And then they say, we proffer this witness for cross-examination. And then the other parties have an opportunity to ask questions of you based on your testimony. At the end of that, then the person that puts you up as a witness has an opportunity to rehabilitate you. And basically that just means that they get to go back and ask questions about what the other people ask questions and give you the chance to say what you want to say, and not necessarily responses that were provided to cross-examination.
When is the final decision due? Is that summer of next year?
I sent out the procedural schedule yesterday, and the initial decision based on the change in the track 1 schedule is, I believe, July 29th. It was going to be May 23rd, and it moved out.
So Mark, when witnesses are testifying, Mountain Parks, because it's a party, could ask questions.
Yes, we could.
Okay, that's kind of what I wanted.
We are not required to, and I have been.
We could.
Yeah, I have been in proceedings where there were 8 interveners, and only 2 of them actually asked questions. So when it comes to you, you just say no questions, and you're not required to ask questions. And because you ask questions, that doesn't necessarily mean they can ask a question of you unless you file testimony.
Okay, so if you had real concerns or something that you didn't think any other party would bring out in that process, Mountain Parks has a way to at least get the issue raised.
Yes.
Okay, great, thanks.
Okay, are any other questions on FERC? Seeing none, we'll move on. We discussed last month the possibility of a financial institution change. Scott, Stacy, and I have participated in meetings with 3 financial institutions regarding deposit merchant card services. Subsequent to those initial meetings, one of the institutions withdrew because we were explaining what we wanted and the specifics of it, and they determined that they could not give us everything that we were asking for. We have reviewed the proposals that have been submitted thus far, and both of the proposals would lower fees and increase our interest income. but we have not made any final decisions as to if we will change from our current provider, because they are one of the two, or the other possible option for us. And tying to that, the possible RUS buyout, we've reviewed proposals from two lenders detailing the financing of an exit from RUS. Stacy has had subsequent meetings with both of them, and based on some conversations that she and I have had, we've asked them to tweak their initial proposals to better match cash flows as we would move forward. And then yesterday, Stacy, Scott, and I participated in a Zoom presentation to better understand one of these proposals. We expect to have one with the other as well. Both proposals offer competitive rates and suggest that there is interest savings for mountain parks with this, and we have been able to match the cash flows over a 20-year term. Part of what we have looked at doing is, rather than just matching maturities, we have looked at structuring the maturities in such a way to where they actually match the cash flow as close as possible. And what we have, at least with our initial run through with it, there are the potential for interest savings over the 20 years. And we've gotten to the point where the cash flows are actually better. I mean, they're fairly close to what they would be otherwise, but they're better than what they would be if we remain with the debt as it's currently structured. So with that, I will pause to see if anybody has questions on either the possible change in financial institutions or the RUS buyout.
For financial institutions, can you help me clarify what services those financial institutions provide to us?
Basically, anything that a business needs. So they provide our bank accounts, they provide sweep accounts, they provide the merchant services, so processing of credit cards that we take. They provide investment vehicles for cash that we have. And Stacey, did I miss anything?
They provide the FDIC insurance above the $250,000 because our balances are quite a bit bigger in the bank. And then they provide bill payment services. So ability to link with the 500 bill payment services out there and streamline it so we can bring them into our system every day from the various different bill pay companies. I think that's most of it.
Yep.
And that the last one that Stacey talked about, the bill payment, that was the reason that the one withdrew, because we have worked over the last several years to aggregate all of those incoming bill payment services to get a single file, and they were not able to do that. And it makes it extremely difficult to deal with all of them individually. Now, we wouldn't necessarily have something from all 500, but it's really difficult when you have to do them all. And so an aggregated file makes it much more efficient. Any other questions about RUS or the possible change in financial institutions?
Yeah, I'm just curious what sort of timetable you're thinking you'll have more information regarding a possible refinance and sort of what that process would look like.
It will most likely be
going through, like presenting the options to the board. I mean, that's a pretty big decision.
Yeah. It will most likely be in the first quarter of next year that we will either propose to move forward with it, or just say that, it doesn't make sense for us to do it. And then what we would end up doing is similar to what we have done in the past, is that we will have a session with the board where we present the possibilities and discuss and educate the board as best we can on the different options. And then any decision would be made the following month.
Well, I think this ticks one of those boxes in the strategic plan, which is to make sure we have a proper amount of capital equity to run the company. So thanks.
What we have seen with the presentations that have been made is that the access to additional capital as we move forward is not a problem. It is actually streamlined to where that they will make decisions in a matter of weeks, where RUS makes a decision in a year or so. And it is a much more robust process that I will say, or bureaucratic, whichever you want to characterize it as, in order to be able to get the funding from RUS. And the other difference is that RUS is somewhat on a reimbursement. So basically, you spend the money, you do the project, you file the completed projects, and that's when they give you the money. With the other opportunities, they give us access to the money so that they actually fund the construction, as opposed to us funding it from internally generated cash and then getting the money back.
Mark, are you free to say the names of the two entities that would do the RUS buyout?
I don't know that there's any reason for us not to, because I think that most of you probably can guess who they are. They're CFC and CoBank.
Mark, I was reading I can't remember if it was the bylaws or the articles of incorporation. I think it's the articles of incorporation. They talk about assets and debt of and in there it says something like it has to be approved by RUS. Like, even I just looked at that and I was like, well, does RUS have to approve whoever the new financer is?
No, they do not. But much like we've seen with the Winter Park property, whenever you attempt to liquidate an asset, or RUS has to release the lien, because all three of the financial institutions that we deal with have on Winter Park, they all have a lien on all of our assets. And so RUS has to release the lien, CF has to release the lien, and CoBank has to release the lien. What we've seen is, and Levi can probably give a better timeline, but it took us, I'll say 60 to 90 days to work through the process with RUS to get them to release the lien. It took about 2 to 3 days with CoBank and CFC to release the lien.
Great, thank you.
Has Mountain Parks Electric ever been not under RUS? I guess, have we ever been free and clear from borrowing from RUS?
Not to my knowledge. I believe that we were an initial RUS borrower, and it would probably predated CoBank and CFC. And we have, well, if we had not had any RUS loans, I can't imagine that that has been the case, because this is a specific process that you have to go through to buy out of the lending. And there is, and this is something that we would cover with the proposals, there is a premium that you pay to buy out, but this is the time to be looking at it because of the way interest rates are. When we looked at it a year plus ago, the number was more than double what the number is now as a premium. And so that's one of the reasons why we can restructure the debt through a buyout and pay that premium and still save money. Okay, one more time, see if anybody has any other questions. If not, I'll move on. Seeing and hearing none. I attended the CREA managers meeting on December 1st and 2nd. Federated Insurance and a company called BKI Engineering Services presented information on a partnership that they have developed to help cooperatives develop wildfire mitigation plan templates. Basically, they have done it for the states of Nevada and one other, I want to say it's potentially Oregon. And what they do is they create a template, they provide you with the mapping from the Forest Service and others to identify hotspots. We are going to take a look at it. It requires a 3-year commitment. It is $2,500 a year for it, and we'll look to see if it's something that we believe will enhance what we are doing. I think that Federated wants to see that utilities that are and cooperatives that are insured by them, that they have a wildfire mitigation plan, which we do, and that's what we discussed with them with our renewal, which is coming up. And that the one piece of advice that the engineering firm said is that if you put it in your plan, you need to do it, because that will be the first document that the lawyer that sues you will look to, and he will go through everything that you said that you were going to do and check to make sure that you did it. And if you did not, you have a problem. So we're going to look at that program to see if they can provide us with some template plans that they have done. It's all online, so it's something that we could potentially put into call to order or have access. It's probably not something that we would put on our website because of the detailed information that would be in the plan. We don't want to give somebody that wants to do bad things a roadmap to what they could do that would cause us problems. But we'll see if that's something that provides benefit to mountain parks, and we'll come back to the board with that if we choose to move forward with that. Kent Singer and Tim Coleman discussed the 22 legislative session, and then they also discussed CREA's proposed bill to fund microgrid development. They talked about some of the bills that they anticipate being submitted. At the time that we had the discussion, that was, I believe, the deadline for people to submit bills. So they should be putting together a recap of bills that have been submitted, I would guess within the next month or so. Jeff Nilsson from NISC presented an overview of cyber threats and business practices that can help mitigate those threats. Very interesting presentation. Some of the things they talked about that NISC is doing to assist co-ops with cybersecurity. And it was interesting in that on the second day, on morning of December the 2nd, DMEA's new CEO, Alyssa Clemens Roberts, provided an overview of their recent cyber attack. And if you have more questions about that, we can discuss it in executive session, because it was very interesting. It was not a phishing attack that caused the issue. It was something else. And the things that she has been talking to her staff about and what they have been implementing are things that we are already doing. But that does not mean that we are 100% protected, because we keep putting in new measures, and the people that are out there trying to do bad things, they keep coming up with better ways to try and do what they want to do to be able to ransomware your system. And one of the things that NISC talked about is that you have a backup of your system which is air gapped or not on your operating system, because if they can get into your system and that's where your backups are, they lock everything up and then you can't back up. So it was very interesting discussions. And like I said, if you have more questions related to what DMEA shared, be happy to share that in executive session. And then the last thing is, on the afternoon of the 2nd of December, CREA had a joint board and managers meeting. They had a presentation which Liz referenced, and the speaker was actually very interesting. And then talked about a number of other things, which I'm sure Jeff will cover in his CREA report. So I'll
Just set
pause.
them out, Mark.
Okay, I'll pause
just
for a
sent
moment to
those
see if
notes out.
anybody has any questions.
Clarification, because I was typing. You said that Kent Singer and Tim Coleman discussed the upcoming legislative session, and what was the other thing?
and CREA's proposed bill to fund microgrid development.
Okay. And are there any other bills that have been submitted this year?
Well, there have been a number of bills that have been submitted by the legislators, I believe, and Jeff can probably.
Oh, no, I mean by CREA. We could discuss that.
Not that I'm aware of. There have been a number of bills discussed, but I believe that that bill is the only one that at this juncture that they are looking to try and find a sponsor for and move forward.
And then for cybersecurity, the article Liz sent around, and thank you for that, Liz, really stressed the importance of having robust backup systems. Do we have robust backup systems?
We do, they're referred to as 321. That basically you have generational backups. You store those backups separately, and best practice is that you store one off-site, and we have the ability to do backups in the cloud. And then one of the things that people are actually looking at now is, believe it or not, going back to tapes. And you do a backup on a tape, because unless they can break in and get that tape, you will always be able to restore your system.
Yeah, and I didn't send that, I didn't send the link to that article to staff because I was sensitive to sending links to staff. But it was a utility dive article about the DMEA event, which you guys probably have as much information from your session at CREA as what was in that article, I guess.
I will tell you that it was extremely severe, what they went through, yeah, and that they're still trying to recover from.
Well, I just sort of imagined it would have been like us. I mean, I know how long it took to get from SCDC to NISC, and how long it took for you guys to make sure that the data actually populated the fields in NISC correctly. And we actually had data, and trying to recreate, and we had email, and you could use the phone to communicate, and you could use your computers to talk to NISC, and trying to do that in a short period of time with bad data, no email, no phone. I just can't even imagine what that would look like.
Absolutely. And I mean, frankly, it is scary to think some of the things that happened and the limitations that it placed on the organization. And Alyssa had actually been on the job, I think, for 4 to 6 weeks when this happened. So, and they have some new staff, my understanding. Okay, moving on. Last month, while we were reviewing the budget, we talked about a fleet replacement plan, and we're working to create that. We're using data from a couple of different systems to gather information and researching industry standards. We expect to have a draft plan for your review in January. And then there was also a request last month for the Tri-State board policies. I was able to download Tri-State's board policies, all 73 of them, and the table of contents. It has been uploaded to call to order. What I want to make sure that everybody is aware of is that Tri-State has a similar rotation to what we do of reviewing their policies. So in order to maintain the most current version, we'll have to monitor that. And the policies that you have are the most current ones as of Monday. Now, they had a board meeting, I believe, on Wednesday or Wednesday, yes, because today is Thursday. And so they may have made changes to one of those policies that you see in there. And if we'll monitor the minutes when they come out and the policies, and if they made changes, we will switch out the policies that are there. So I will pause to see if anybody has any question about either of those two.
Thank you.
And then one of the other things that actually came up in between meetings was the questions related to Windy Gap and the pumping stations and Henderson Mill. We have been working on that for a couple of weeks this morning. And so you will need to, if you have not done so today, update your call to order, because in call to order, there is a responsive document. I grouped the questions based on how they were done into 10 questions. We provided a staff response, and in one case, a response from Levi as well. And there are 8 attachments. Attachment 1 is a legend of all of the various pumping station and Henderson Mill. It provides you with who the owner is, who provides the power, how the transmission is done, who owns the transmission, and any billing relationship that we have with them. Attachment 2 is something similar, but it's more from the billing perspective, because what you will see is with some of them that we don't really have much to do from a billing perspective related to them. But for the ones that we do, part of attachment 2 is also a copy of a monthly bill for the ones that we do bill. And then there are copies of agreements for that we have related to the tri-party agreement with Tri-State Northern Colorado and MPEI, as well as our transmission agreement with XL and to provide the service for Henderson Mill. And there are 2 of those. And then there are, in response to one of the questions about other special contracts, we have no other large power special contracts, but we do have some special contracts. And there are, I believe, 3 of those. And they are, well, since I would name the people, I'll just let you look at who the special contracts are. And they are noted in the first responsive questions. It shows you who the special contract is with and the attachment that corresponds to it. So I will pause there. I apologize that we didn't get it done. I was working on it last night and tweaking a few things. And, I know that we had talked about the possibility of discussing it in executive session today, and we would be willing to respond to it, or we can put it on the agenda for next month to give you guys a chance, because it is a lot of pages of stuff.
I would appreciate an opportunity to read through and digest that a little bit. Also,
Okay.
where can we find it in the updated call to order? Is that under manager's report or elsewhere?
It's under executive session.
Okay.
It's under the executive session.
And you have to update again.
Yeah,
Well, I updated last
and
night.
Michelle did a great job of putting it in there, because I sent it to her just before the meeting started, because we had been working on some of the documents, like I said, as late as last night. So, okay. And then the last item, did anybody have any questions on that before I move on? Seeing and hearing none, we will move on. The last item is CCL. Mona provided the presentation. What staff we have been looking at is ways that we can reduce the costs associated with CCL. And beginning next year, for anybody that we have an email address, and those would be people that are receiving their bills electronically, we are going to send an electronic version of the magazine. So it will basically be the magazine with our 4 pages that we put in it.
Mark, if I could say, not anyone with an email address, only if they've signed up to receive a paperless bill.
Okay, sorry.
Yep.
For the correction. And we will give them the option of continuing to receive a paper copy, but we will not be sending one unless they ask for one. The other thing that we are working on, and this is one of the largest drivers of the postage increase, is for members that are outside the state of Colorado as their primary residence. And we are going to be communicating with them that we won't be sending the paper copy to them. We will provide the electronic copy if they wish, or if they want to continue to receive the paper copy, we will send it to them. But I believe the email with the electronic billing is between 1,500 and 2,000 accounts. And that is somewhere in the neighborhood of $6 to $10 per account that we would reduce our cost by. We're still looking at some other things, as Mona mentioned. We talked with her about the drop shipping. We talked about the new provider that they're going to use and how that might reduce cost. But we want to continue to provide options to our members, but not try and reduce the cost for somebody that is not going to read it. When we sign up new members, we're going to give them the option of receiving it electronically, and they will have to actually request the paper copy if they want a paper copy of the magazine. So with that, I will pause to see if there are any questions related to that.
Yeah, I just have a question on the members who opt to receive it electronically. Will that meet our notice requirements, because we use CCL as the notice for the annual meeting?
Based on my discussion with Levi, yes, it does meet the notice requirement, but I will let Levi respond if he disagrees with what I believe was the outcome of our discussion.
So without getting into legal advice, the one key piece of information I think that would help you, Liz, is that when we use the CCL for notice, those opt-outs are opted back in. Rob, is that going to remain to be true?
That is what we are currently looking at, but we would like to find a way to make that not have to be the case, if we can.
So then we would just have to get the things that require written notice to those members to them separately.
Yes. Kristen, did you have a question?
That clarified it. Thank you.
Okay. And that ends my report.
I know that at the Granby post office, there is quite a few of the CCL magazines that I think Kristen had also voiced in her side of the county. Can we just collect those and contact those people, or take them off the mailing list if we had the postmasters just keep them for a month?
Typically we could talk to them, but knowing the postmasters, I think it's highly unlikely that they would keep those for us, because someone would have to go out and retrieve them from the recycle bin. And I think it is unlikely that the postmaster would do that for us.
I think in Granby, there's sort of there are ongoing challenges in that post office. I was told by the postmasters that because the trash cans, there are no trash cans, there are no recycle cans because they've been misused. And I've been told by the postmasters that they're going to collect the mail that is left in the lobby and put it back in people's boxes, just to teach them. And so, that should speed up the delivery of mail, I think. But I mean, I make light of the situation, but I don't think we're going to get, I don't know how you do that. I mean, I'm not sure it's worth Mountain Park's employees' time to go in there and collect them and strike them off. Maybe it would pay off over 10 years. I don't know. But it's a difficult situation in the Granby post office.
And I think that that's the challenge that we see, because we talked about possibly trying to collect those so that we could update members' addresses. The problem is that it comes out and then it's probably over somewhere between a 5 to 10 day period that you'd have to go and visit the post office every day. And what you're mostly, unless you want to dig through the recycling, what you're going to get are the ones that are on top. And so we felt that was probably not a productive use of our employees' time. We're going to try and come up with some better ways to communicate with the members that, If they don't want it, please let us know and we can fix that easily. And we do have an article on CCL, and I don't remember which month it was because we work a couple months out. Rob, do you remember on the CCL? Because it was in response to a member question in the survey that said, save money, don't do a magazine. And so we did respond to the question, and we talked in that article that if people don't want the magazine, it's very simple for us to change that, and they won't receive it.
Give me a minute and I can tell you the month.
I was thinking November, because we haven't done January yet, and I haven't done February. So, and I know what the December article was, so I'm thinking it would be November. But Jeff, if you'd like, while he's checking on that, we can move on to the safety report.
Sounds good, Mark.
Okay. We had no accidents, incidents, near misses, or damage in the month of November. I do believe that focusing on the small things is paying off. The safety committee, you see their activities there in the report. We had some under loss prevention. We do the RESAP, where the CREA brings in a team of individuals from other co-ops to do a safety check on us. And we've been doing mock RESAPs and going and looking at facilities and checking on things and doing the same kinds of things that they do to prepare us for that, and to also identify areas that we maybe need to change or re-educate our employees. And Rob says it was in fact November. Good guess on my part. And then you see the job training that was completed, and then the upcoming training for December. And so if there are any questions, I will attempt to answer those questions.
I like the fact that the safety coordinator was looking at ABD and just sort of, it is somebody that's doing a lot of work on our lines, and hopefully they do that with altitude, I think is the name of the other.
That is, and that has been a focus for us because he and I discussed it. I do one-on-ones with each of the direct reports every 2 weeks, and we talk more frequently than that, obviously, but that was one of the things that we talked about. Can we go and do same kind of safety visits to them that we're doing to our own folks? And I said, absolutely, yes. We have told our linemen when they're out in the field, if they see something, to stop and say something, because those contractors are held to the same standard that we are. And if they believe that they are unsafe, then they should stop them from working until such time as they address whatever the safety issue is.
Just a clarification under loss prevention, it says more field visits by safety coordinator. I wasn't sure if that meant in November there were more, or that in December they're going to be more. It just was a language thing, sort of probably what Levi was looking at. The part. So
it is going forward. We are going to do more field visits, both for our employees as well as for any contractors that are working.
And congratulations on a good month.
Everybody, it's a community effort, and everybody has done a very good job. So we're pleased with that. And I guess one other comment, we have a new superintendent, or newer superintendent, Nate Town, and General Foreman, Adam Paulson, and they have done an exemplary job in focusing the crews on the safety aspects of things, reminding them about things that, this is just how we do it. And so you kind of get complacent, and reminding them that with the safety issues in the industry we work in, you cannot be complacent, because complacency ends up being something that will potentially get you in trouble.
We do need a motion to accept the safety report if there's no further questions.
So moved.
Motion by Liz and a second by Dick. All those in favor? Anybody opposed? Okay. Hey, Mark, why don't we take 15-minute break and be back at 10 after? Does that work for everybody?
Works for me, yes.
Okay, see you back here in a little bit.
Michelle, I have a question for you if you have a moment.
Yes.
On the bottom of my agenda, I have everything from number 11 or number 12 down. It's got a little black thing rather than the PDF. And I can't seem to get that to download.
Well, that's strange.
It may be because of where I am. So-
Yeah, I would guess so. Because, yeah,
I downloaded before I left,
okay.
which Saturday or Sunday and
Yeah.
or Saturday, and anything that may have come in after that or a download, it just has like a little black, I don't know what it is. It looks like it just has like a little white arrow up in the cloud.
Hey, Dick,
Oh, yeah,
it's just trying to download, and not only are there a bunch of things under all those charts and many pages that Mark was
Right.
referring to.
And that's
I
probably
think it's also downloading all the tri-state policies over.
right.
in-
And
Yeah.
it times out.
And that takes forever.
Yeah, it times out while I'm down here. It'll go and it'll try and do it. And about after 5 minutes, I'll get an error message that says it timed out. So, okay, I just want to make sure it wasn't something that's because the content was so large. I will
Yeah,
just
no,
have, yeah, I'll just have to deal with you guys and fill in some of the details. You know, I don't think there's anything there that I need to look at the detail that I can't get. But I was wondering, is there a way to send that to me, to my other computer in a different format, or would I run into the same problem? I don't know.
I believe, Dick, you're going to run into the same problem because the issues related to the Windy Gap that we sent out, I mean, as I said, it's a lot of pages. It's a huge file.
Okay.
And with the other stuff that we have updated this morning, I think you're going to, if your internet connectivity is not really good, you're going to run into the same issue if we send it some other way. It's probably easier in call to order than it is just sending you like an email, because we'd have.
Yeah, how about instead of, is there any way to skip over the Windy Gap and get some of the other, like number 12 through 19 without hitting the Windy Gap item? I wonder if those others would download if I didn't have Windy Gap in there. That was my only question.
Now, you might turn your video off or get off a Zoom for these 15 minutes and see if that frees up enough bandwidth that it would download 3 or 4 of those items.
Yeah,
It takes a lot of bandwidth.
So you're missing human resources, member relations, and bills for payment. Are those the 3 you're missing?
Down to 19, of course.
Well, the others are just
Yeah,
pages.
there's nothing in those, but it's 12 through 14 are
Okay.
the ones. And I didn't know whether or not it just because if I try and update, it goes to Windy Gap and then it just stops. So that's okay. Hey, I guess the joys of me being where it's warm, I have to lose out on some of this stuff. What can I tell you?
I can see, have you you are able to get email at your Mountain Parks Electric email, correct?
Oh yeah, I can get emails and I can get them on my other computer. The one I'm on the Zoom meeting. It's just that the detail, when it hit Windy Gap, I think it just froze. It just has a little arrow up to the cloud and it's just such a large file, it may not come through down here.
Okay, I'll send those via email to you through the Mountain Parks one.
Okay, 12, 13, 14 is
Yep.
all I need. And then I'll see if I can pull them up on the other screen. Thank you so much.
Not a problem.
All right. Thank you, Michelle. I received the emails.
Great. I'm glad you got it.
Yep, I got all three of them. Thank you very much.
Perfect.
Good.
Now, it looks like we're getting everybody back. Mark, did you want to start with discussion action items?
Yes, but I did want to make one comment that I forgot to make when I was going through my report. Mona referenced some statistics and pages from a survey. We didn't have those, so we have reached out to her to have her resend that. And then when we get that, we will send it to the board so that you have the information that she was referencing.
And Mark, if you send it to me, I can upload it to call to order under her as well.
Okay. As soon as we see something, we'll do that. Under action items 7A, Vasquez Road Sale, that was a placeholder because we thought we would have some action that was necessary. With the withdrawal of the offer, we do not. So that moves us to 7B, which is policy A5, assets of the cooperative.
I have a question on A before we move on.
Sure.
Will we be able to see a copy of the report from the engineer that Mountain Parks is commissioning?
Yes, if there is a report. They used an engineer, the buyer, to generate a report. they stopped short of actually paying to have the report issued because we asked if we could get a copy of it. And so they didn't issue one. My intent with the environmental engineer is to get advice and not necessarily have them create a report. Give advice as to how we might be able to resolve the issues that have been brought up. And I mean, they may do that in the form of a report. And if they do, then we will provide a copy to the board. But it's more to get have better information on which to make a decision as to anything that we might do related to the property moving forward.
Mark, at what cost is this to the co-op?
The engineer?
Correct.
We don't know because we played some phone tag, and so I have not talked to the person, and I don't know what their rate is. My hope is that we can keep it at a relatively low cost, under a couple $1,000. But I think it will be extremely beneficial to us if we know what things we can do to mitigate some of the issues and lessen the amount that we might have to adjust the sales price for.
Are you at liberty to say who that engineer is, or would that be executive session?
Let's make it executive session, please, before we discuss anything.
Yeah, I could tell you, but I'm going to have to go back and find it because I've left the messages, they call back, and I don't recall off the top of my head what their name is. So
executive session is fine.
There's a
but I'd be a little interested.
There's a specific reason why I'm suggesting that, which I would talk about in executive session.
Okay.
Thank you.
So brings us to A5, assets of the cooperative. You see the suggested changes in that, and the changes were on page 3 of 4, or actually it says 9 of 9. I guess, sorry, they're on page 9 of 9. I didn't realize I had moved that many pages. And Levi, I don't know if you want to provide any comment based on what you changed.
No comments. If anybody has any questions.
Great. So this basically removes the requirement that we do a vote by mail.
Correct.
Sounds good. Move to approve and make public.
You've got a motion by Kristen to approve. Is it A5? Have a second? Second by Justin. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Anybody opposed? Okay, motion carries.
Brings us to 7C, which is policy A7, selection of an independent auditor. And you see the changes that Levi made, and they're on page 1 and 2.
I'd move to approve policy A7
And make it public.
and make it public.
Thanks, Liz. Motion by Liz and a second by Dick. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Anybody opposed? Okay, motion carries.
And then
A8.
7D, which is policy A8, corporate credit card. And you see a change that was made on page 2 of 2.
Is that formatting gonna get corrected? Is that what the highlight is for?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm not going to blame it on lawyers, but sometimes when they make changes, they're not good at formatting.
I noticed that in none of our policies, we had the newly revised date. Will those be added as well?
Those are added when we publish it and it gets signed.
Okay, I move to approve policy A8 and make it
public.
Thanks, Liz. Motion by Liz. Second by Mr. Volt. All those in favor? Anybody opposed? Okay, motion carries.
That brings us to item 7E, and there are actually 4 items there. They have to do with changes to the bylaws. I believe that you should have gotten these yesterday or the day before from Levi. And the first one is the resolution, and then the second one is the red line of the proposed bylaw amendments. And then the third is the amendment to Article 8. And then the fourth is the resolution to amend Article 8. So with that,
That's real quick. Yeah. So the second one, Articles 8 is the Articles of Incorporation. Just to be consistent, I think there's an argument there that we need the electronically mentioned in the Articles of Incorporation. So I did that as well.
And this isn't just a ratification, because the only thing discussed in the last meeting was
no, this is not a ratification, because Levi actually went in and made the proposed changes to this for the board to review.
So a proper motion to accept all this would include a motion to approve the resolution for a bylaw change to comply with this new state law, a resolution to amend the Articles of Incorporation, and then
I'd do 2 separate motions. I'd do a motion for each resolution.
okay, all right. Well, that's what I'll do then.
Wait, how should I type that out?
So I move to approve the resolution of the Board of Directors to sponsor alterations or amendments to section 4 and 5 of Article 4 and Article 3. Wait a minute.
Oh, there's a typo.
There's a typo.
Good thing you typed that out. Yeah, didn't see that.
Shoot. Bylaws. Darn you, Levi.
I only read that thing 5 times.
Director McIntyre moved to approve the resolution of the Board of Directors to sponsor alterations to
or amendments.
Let's do that. How about we do this?
Okay.
Resolution to amend the bylaws was presented.
Okay.
Now Liz can simply make a motion to approve that with that typo corrected.
So that should be Article
3.
3.
It's Article 3.
4. Okay. So we have to amend this resolution so that it says, or to correct that typo.
Yep.
Is that what you want me to do first?
The resolution was presented and revised in the first paragraph to say sections 4 and 5 of Article 3.
Okay.
If you can make sure that's in the minutes, Michelle.
Yep.
If that motion has been made, I will second it.
I think, Liz, you made that motion, correct?
I've made that motion.
Thanks, Dick, for the second. Is any further discussion? All those in favor? Anybody opposed? Okay, motion carries.
Okay, now resolution to propose an amendment to the Articles of Incorporation was presented.
I move to approve the resolution to sponsor a change to the Articles of Incorporation as presented.
Thanks, Liz. Second.
Second.
Thanks, Justin. A motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Anybody opposed? Okay, motion carries.
Is Rob still on?
Yes.
Rob, we'll need to get together on including this all in the notice for the annual meeting and ballots for approving this.
Will do. Thanks.
So Jeff, that brings us to the department reports.
Okay. Scott, engineering.
Okay, you all have my report. Of note in my report is the status of the bids of the Highway 125 and the Buffalo Creek or King Ranch project. We had the bidder take some exceptions, which we went back to get clarification from the bidder, and they doubled their bid price. This done after the bids were opened publicly, so knowing that the second bidder was significantly higher, they took the opportunity to try to make some money off of this. I do not consider that an honest practice, and so I have disqualified them as a bidder. That leaves us with two bids, which number one is not acceptable, and number two, the bids were way too high for us to be able to consider this project. And so that project will be going out to bid next, probably wait till after the holidays to get it back out to bid. And then hopefully we'll have something to bring to you either in December or February or January or February as an update on this. Any other questions on my report?
Yeah.
Scott, did you have any local?
We did
contractors
not.
doing it?
We did not. We advertised on an online service. And so one of the things we're going to do is do better advertising either locally and on the Front Range. And so we're looking at ways to improve getting a bid response and hopefully include some local contractors. Liz?
Yeah, just a couple of questions. So the current service will, until we rebuild that, the folks on up 125 will use kind of the same feed as, I mean, you guys have made some changes since last winter, but.
There are some temporary facilities that are feeding the customers that are in service up 125. A big part of it is the temporary underground cable laid on top of the ground. I really want to get that buried as soon as I can, but I've got to have some valid bids in order to do that.
Okay.
There is no service to the King Ranch at this time.
Yeah, then my second question was ADB's a little behind of what we had thought they would be as far as finishing up phase one.
Yeah, this process has been with Connexon involved with this. The process has gotten a little bit confusing. They changed the design of the system, and as such, the Connexon folks are responsible for letting the ADB crews know what to build and where. That's been a little bit rocky, and on top of that, ADB is waiting on make ready to get complete, or was waiting on make ready to get completed. We do finally have staking sheets to do that. And furthermore, they're having difficulties, as everybody is, getting labor. And so we don't really have enough overhead crews to keep that schedule where it needs to be. So it's a combination of a lot of things, getting off to a slow start, as well as the labor situation.
Okay, thank you. I mean, the fact that it's getting built is,
Yeah,
I think it's pretty slow for everyone's struggling with a lot of the same issues, so.
Forward progress is always good.
Quick question.
can we put in the minutes that we're in discussions with Connection about fiber to the home, or do we have an, should we not?
That should have been in the minutes from last month because we were having those conversations. We have not, we've met with them, but we have not moved that process forward yet.
Anyone else?
I had a question about the lineup Blue Ridge, and just in our questions, a question in general about our communication sites. I'm just curious about if those would be a good. I'm curious about how often we sort of look at different technologies to feed those. And I understand if they have to have a fiber line up to them to serve the communication towers, then we're going to have overhead that we have to maintain anyway. But I know that in developing countries that storage and solar and other alternatives often are the cheapest way to make those communication sites work. And I'm curious how often we take a look at that. You know, is it every 5 years, every 2 years? And how we evaluate those costs.
So the Blue Ridge site is not our site. We don't have anything there. Western serves that site through a line that they own. And so first to address the specific, we've had some discussions about that. We've talked a little bit about that possibility with Western. However, the sites are pretty remote. And so maintaining that equipment up on top of a mountain, especially a site that may take a long time to get to in the winter, is difficult and problematic. And the other issue could be the available acreage in order to put solar panels and that type of thing. We serve several other sites, and we haven't currently looked at converting any of those to a microgrid situation. We've been able to maintain the overhead lines up to those sites as we have for many, many years. This particular site, they want to add a customer on the top of that mountain. I guess AT&T is either getting kicked off of another site by the Forest Service, or the Forest Service has some kind of vested interest in getting an AT&T site on Blue Ridge. And so they are pushing to try to make something happen. Western is not set up to bill retail customers. And so they really are not interested in providing service to AT&T up at the top of that mountain through their line. And so there are options we move power through Western's line and supply service direct at the top of the mountain through Western's line. Now that would require Western to rebuild the line, or we build a new line, in which case we would not use the alignment that Western has used. And the line would be significantly longer and possibly be required to be underground.
Well, it seems like, I mean, we're requiring everything underground, like new lines. So I'm guessing up Blue Ridge would fall in that.
Yeah, that's correct.
Pretty, I mean, that would be a line extension, be fairly expensive.
Yeah, probably 5 miles to get up there.
Yeah.
Scott, is solar even an option, or is the demand pretty high?
No, I don't think the demand is high. I think the issue more is making the site reliable and keeping up on maintenance during the winter months when the site's really not accessible.
Would they be paying the extension fees, I presume?
AT&T would be, yeah.
Okay. And what about the CREA microgrid thing that they're advancing? Would that potentially help us with our evaluations of any of these remote sites?
I would have to look into that.
I think one of the challenges with that, Kristen, is the space at the top of the mountain. And that's, I mean, because we looked at the potential for solar up there. It's just that there's not enough space for panels that would produce the power that we would need. And it would be quite an undertaking to put the panels on the top of the mountain anyway.
It'd probably have to be wind on top of a mountain or something. Okay, thanks.
Anything else? Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Scott. Don?
So I've submitted my report. Are there any questions on my report?
Well, just speaking about those microgrids, I noticed that our crews battled the conditions on Walton Peak to restore a long outage to a communication tower. So I'm thinking, you know, some storage would keep, I mean, I guess we had a generator up there that kept that running or something. There was some backup, but someone had to go up and fuel it. And yeah, anyway, it all gets expensive to service remote stuff. I noticed on, and this might be a Joe question, on our meter, on an outage report on our website, if you click on it, there's one meter that shows up and it's been off since like, I don't know, a long time, a month or so. And I'm just curious what that, like, I'm like, why does that keep showing up? And it's also in a fairly remote place, I think. So just a
I'll take a look at it on our website because it's not on our OMS, which is interesting. So I'll see what's not translating there, Liz. It's
okay.
good color.
You don't have to answer it in the meeting. It was just something that I noticed. So thanks.
On?
Yes, sir.
I noticed allocation from FEMA. Is that the extent of it, or is that just like the first payment, hopefully?
So what we have right now, Dick, is we have 10 different projects that we're working on with FEMA. This is only 3 of them. So whether it be a mutual aid or whether it be a smaller development up north in Sun Valley. So this is 3 of them that have been, with their term is called obligated to the state. So now we are working with the state in regards to the distribution of funds, the ability to be able to not go through the entire FEMA process again that we went through on these particular projects, but go through a process that the state has established to be able to make sure that they can obligate those funds legally. So like I said, this is just 3 of the 10 projects. You know, these are actually the smaller ones.
Don, when do you think the old Ute Pass transmission is the old Ute Pass transmission line, the MPE owned transmission line near Highway 9 and Ute Pass is ready to be retired?
So it's ready to be retired now. We did have, can you hear me?
Yep.
It's ready to be retired now. We did work with Excel to actually, they had to get in the substation to be able to take the static line down and the phases down. We didn't have clearance to do that. So it's ready to be retired now. We are actually, we had Altitude bid that to come in and actually retire that. So I could see that being done by the second week of January, weather depending.
Okay, that should make some folks happy, I think.
Oh, definitely.
On the avian protection, you noted that you're working on avian protection, and I know that in the past, Mountain Parks worked a lot with Doreen Summerlin, and she had a lot of comments about the WAPA line that, you know, that they didn't put. Well, she had comments about that, and as WAPA put their line in, they did not put much avian protection on the top of those poles, and we all saw it for however many years, and then they finally put it on this year. And so I'm just curious if you've reached out to her at all for any comments on any trouble spots you have on ours.
Yeah, we have contacted her, and you know, in regard, we work with her on the different places. I do have some concern now, since WAPA did do some avian protection, that they'll start looking at the distribution more. So that's one thing our line patrol is going to spend close attention to during this winter months, is those places that are the double arms and things of that nature where it's easy for them to build the nest. And then Scott and I are also working on some of the standards, to be able to say, do we need to change our standards because of this migration change?
Great, thank you very much.
I believe in the past that it had been estimated that the FEMA reimbursement would cover a little over a third of our estimated expenses. Has that been updated with this first potential payment from FEMA coming? Are we going to get closer to half maybe?
No, I really think I'm kind of excited because actually, working in hand with the state too, and I'm not going to guarantee this for the rest of the projects, but on these current projects, we're getting 75% of our total costs. And then the state's actually throwing in the 12.5% too. So that feels good, and hopefully that'll continue throughout the rest of the projects. This mitigation part of it is a little bit different, and we're working through all of the loopholes on that. That would be the Trail Creek subdivision, looking at going underground there, and also 125, what Scott talked about earlier.
Don, that 12% of is that coming out of the mitigation fund? Is that what you're referring to? The state mitigation fund?
No, it's actually not. It's not out of the mitigation fund. So we're working at, that's another avenue that we're working on through that mitigation fund. And we've put several of our work plan projects that, we're looking at going underground and things of that nature as a mitigation fund to be able to get that done. So hopefully we'll even hear more on that. Just making sure we're not, double looking at both ways of funding. And obviously we're not looking at a lot of that funding for the burn area, but this is like other areas that we can actually do that mitigation.
Any other questions for Don?
It's been a bizarre fall. I mean, we're still digging, so which is really strange, but it'll help come spring to be able to not have that huge workload when the frost thaws.
All right, thanks, Don. Stacy?
Hi, good morning. So I have my finance report there in front of you. And then just to add just three things to it. I just want to make sure all the board members know about the final ETS letter we sent out, or we're sending out today. And I wanted to read this wording to all the board members because I'm sure there could be one or two members you're going to hear from. So we've sent 3 separate notices to the ETS members that have a special rate, asking them to self-certify, because we had about 20 to 30% at times when we do meter exchanges that we were noticing ETS units were not there anymore. They'd taken them out, they'd done upgrades to the homes. So the final letter says, and like I said, this is already printed, ready to go out, but I just want to let you know that this is what they're being told. Effective January 1, 2022, MPI is requiring you to annually self-certify that your ETS system is still operational. Self-certification will be necessary to remain on the ETS rate. If you no longer have a working ETS unit or you do not self-certify by January 1st, you will be placed on our standard residential rate. And then in bold, we say, once switched off this rate, you will no longer be eligible for it again. Please visit MPI electric rates for rate details. So we have 159 of our approximately 420 members that have not self-certified yet. That's about 38% that we haven't heard from for those ETS customers. So any questions on that? Yeah, Dick.
Stacy, what happens if somebody self-certifies but they're lying? Do we ever do any like random checking to make sure that what they're telling us is actually what's going on?
We have not, Dick. We're starting with, doing the honor system and having them self-certify. some of the people have not self-certified, and we believe it's because they are in that percentage of folks that don't actually have a working ETS. But as Stacy said, when we go out to do work at some of these places, we will note that the ETS unit is not working. But we don't have plans at this time to go out and audit the people that self-certify.
All right.
And if people call in who, well, if they do, if they're not, if they don't self-certify and they're upset with the rate change, or I'm guessing that customer service or someone can talk to them about the time of use rate.
About their what?
Time of use.
I mean, we didn't have that.
Oh, whole house time of use, correct.
I mean,
Yes.
We're switching them back to our standard rate, but if they're used to using stuff at certain periods of time, they might be natural to go to the time of use rate.
Absolutely. Yep. We just had a huddle. We just had some more classes and training on the whole house time of use rate with the member service people up front. So we're ready for it. That's a good point, Liz.
So can I type in the notes, customers that don't certify will be offered the residential or time of use rate?
Yes.
If they call in, yeah. We don't have that in the letter. We don't have that in the email notifications or the back, but yeah, if they call in, we will definitely put that as an option.
Yeah, so I assume that if somebody doesn't self-certify and they are switched off the ETS rate, when we put them on the residential rate, they're going to call us. And at that time, we can offer them the time of use.
Good point, Mark. Yep. Their bill's going to be higher than they're used to seeing. Okay. One other thing I had to add to my report is on the 16th, I'm taking the capital credit class that some of you had taken. So I just wanted to hear what you were told, and then I'll be prepared to answer and go along with the class outline and do Mountain Parks Electric specific capital credit education program. So that's happening December 16th. And I'm out in January on vacation, so I'll plan on doing that February.
Stacy, is that class online?
Yeah,
through
it is.
CREA, it's a webinar.
Okay, and
I can provide the information to the board. I know at least 4 of the board members, I believe, took it, but we can provide the information so that any board members that weren't able to take it can do it with the webinar.
Is it the same instructor?
Same instructor.
Instructor. Yep. Okay. That's all I had in addition to my board report. Any other questions on my report? No. Okay. Thank you all.
Well, just a quick question.
Sure.
And this wasn't in your board report, so what's November and what are November and December looking like? I mean, we're coming in to the end of the year with big margins, but we've, with our refund and our 401k. Oh, yep. I'm just curious what November, December look like. I mean, not that I'm overly concerned about financial health, but just curious with the lack of snow.
Lack of snow and then warmth.
And
so
warmth, yeah.
Usually our revenue is derived. We're just getting ready to build December tomorrow. That's why I've been shutting my computer off some, because I'm just doing some double checks here for billing. And everything is down currently as far as sales go that I'm seeing on our bills. So definite dip in sales downward. And you will see, I guess you won't see for a couple months. I'm looking at it now, but in December, we're doing the member credit close to $650,000. And then with the 401k match, $350,000. So there's $1 million variance in the margins that will be taking place as well, but less sales overall, Liz.
Yeah, I mean, I expect that $1 million to come off the margin, which is a good thing because the margin is big. But it did occur to me, even just looking at October, and part of that might be when distribution expenses hit and whatnot. But we're down quite a bit in October, and
Yep.
And I'm like, okay, our November and December's decreases in revenue, you know, are we going to be down, you know, another million, 2 million, you know, what's that look like? But
I haven't done my analysis on November. I looked at November. I haven't seen the tri-state bill yet, so I wait for that, which usually comes the 13th of the month, and I can correlate, you know, a big part of our costs with that. Overhead is trending upwards in relation to prior years, just because we have more. When you look at year to year, there's just various things that have happened year to year. It's closer to the budget though. But the last year to current year is off quite a bit, just because of mostly staff changes and increases as well. So.
Well, thank you. I mean, so far it looks like a good year.
Yeah. Yeah. Any other questions? Okay. Thanks.
Thank you.
Joe is not here, so I will attempt to answer any questions you have on the IT report. And I will note that the second item there, the attachment, the graph, is actually part of our response on the Wendy Gap questions.
Mark, I'm thinking we probably should add to executive session the ransom hit. I'm guessing there might be some questions on that while we're at the IT section here.
Well, and actually, in my report, I said if there were questions that we would cover those in executive session, because I can provide more information on what happened there.
I'll add it to the list.
Okay. I guess the one thing that one thing on the IT that I will point out is we've been having some issues with our in-house radio system, and no pun intended, but when you were inside the building, you couldn't actually hear the radios. And so Don and Joe worked to fix that. It's something that is working now, but it's a relatively old system. And so we will be looking at, in 2023, replacing that system with a digital system, which would work on our fiber optic and will be much better than the system, because there are dead spots now in our radio system. And we expect that change will actually make our communications much more robust. And good communications are great when we have people in the field, so that if something happens, they can get in touch with us and we can send help. So, okay, Jessica, you're up.
Hi, everyone. I do not have anything to add to my report. I'll have a little bit in executive session about the employee housing updates. Does anyone have any questions for me on my report?
All right, looks like you got off easy.
Great.
Rob, are you still there?
I am. I appear on your screen as the IT department. I apologize. I'm under the weather this week. Not COVID, but it's a stomach flu. And so I've been working from home last couple of days. And I think I made the right decision because my wife caught it last night. So I'm glad I didn't bring it to the office, but the Taylor house is in recovery mode here. But you have my report. And if I'm happy to answer any questions, I do know we had our coffee event at Rocky Mountain Roastery. I was planning on being there, but Chris covered for me, thankfully, and Michelle. So thank you to both of them. And I know Kristen Tedonio showed up and greeted our members. So hopefully there was some good interactions with that. I really like the format of us going out to our members. And I know that sometimes we have a tendency to look at numbers of attendance. And, I heard anecdotally from Chris about how many were there and came up and visited. But those are all people, I think, that at least most of them that probably would not come to our annual meeting or the county fairs. And And so I just think those touches are very valuable with our members. So thank you also to Kristen for showing up for that. But I'll take any questions you have.
And we do have 2 more of those planned, one in January, one in February. The one in February is in Grand Lake. The one in January is in Kremling. Is that right?
January is Granby
Oh,
at
Granby.
the Chamber Building Coffee House, which is also Rocky Mountain Roastery. And February, which is the Friday before Valentine's Day, is in Grand Lake at the Hub. So hopefully Jeff can make that. But
and Liz is coming to Granby.
Okay.
And I was hoping to also, but unless you do one in Hot Sulphur.
We don't have plans to do one in Hot Sulphur at this time.
And if you know people, friends, relatives, send them on down, because they can also win a electric snowblower. Now, of course, it would be nice if we actually had some snow, but at some point they will be able to use it, I'm sure.
How about an electric snowmaker?
Well, we looked at a snow cone machine, but we didn't figure it was going to make enough to make a difference.
Liz, we're happy to give one of those away as long as you approve it in the budget.
And provide the water.
Yeah, that's right.
All right,
I
thanks,
was asked to
Rob.
pass on compliments and thanks for the coffee. I think that was very welcome and appreciated.
Great, thank you.
Okay, bills for payment. We got any questions on the bills? Nothing? Okay. Board forum. Justin, you got anything? No, Kristen?
No.
Mr. Volt? Shaking their head. Liz?
Not specifically related to a board, but I did go back and visit my dad and saw his little microgrid set up and in New Hampshire. And that sparks those questions about communication towers, because he lives on a pretty in a pretty rural area of New Hampshire where the trees are about twice as tall as the trees out here. So, and they grow a lot faster. So right-of-way maintenance is a huge issue. But it was a pretty cool system. I think the coolest thing for me was to see the gateway that allows the inverters on the solar to, so normally if you have a grid tied solar array, when the grid goes down, your array goes down, because we have a protection in there so that the electricity doesn't flow out onto our lines and cause an injury to people fixing the lines. With that gateway, the gateway senses that the line is down, that there's no power coming from the utility. It changes, it has a switch in there. It then energizes the house using energy storage, and the inverters will work again, and they will power the energy storage in your home. So that was a really kind of a cool little thing to see outside, sitting by their meter. But it makes all that possible. It was pretty seamless. Dad's 90, and he manages to make the whole system work. So that was pretty cool. And it's coming. I mean, I think if our members knew that they could have one of these in their home, people would be like, why wouldn't we? I mean, yeah, there's economic questions, but it provides him a huge amount of peace of mind, especially with the outages they have.
Is it combined with a battery system?
Yeah, he has a 15 kilowatt hour, 7.5 kW storage system that will, and he had to get that big because he has a well pump. He could have changed how he run his well, but that will run his well pump. It will run the pump on his boiler, which is actually it's a pellet boiler now. So he would be able to keep his house from freezing indefinitely, given the amount of solar he has and storage he has.
Liz, what, can you mind me asking, or maybe you don't know, but what was the cost on that switch?
You know, I don't know what that, so the one he has is a Tesla Gateway. I don't know what it cost. He would tell you that because he's been burning wood for about 50 years and saved a lot of money on fuel oil, and he's not paying for much electricity these days, and he has peace of mind, it's worth it. He has the system's somewhat complex because it also has it has an interface that allows it to, when it goes to the microgrid mode, it sheds like his electric oven, his electric dryer. Those loads won't turn on unless he overrides it. So he has it set up so that it can power the house for a long time and really run the loads. He also has his hot water is a sidearm from that pellet boiler, so the pump keeps the hot water going. So it, you know, it's a complicated system, but the electronics of it are making it simpler and simpler. They didn't have to manually wire another panel to have those loads shed. It's all just, it's an app on his phone. So anyway, that was, it was cool to see it all in the flesh and not just read about it.
I think that gateway part is around 1,000. Liz had sent me some photos, so I pretty much looked up the whole system afterwards, but I think the actual gateway system is about 1,000 to connect those.
Is there a lot to install on it?
No, it's just a little box. But I think you have to have the feed come from, he's got two different solar arrays. One has microinverters, one has a central inverter. That feed has to go to that box, has to be connected, and the box is outside by his meter. His storage is in his basement. The arrays are outside. So there's some communication that has to be done with it. But it didn't look like, you know, I think it's more the install of making sure it's the wires or the fiber. I know there's fiber between the different parts of his system. So I think it's more that than the actual, I imagine it's pretty plug and play.
I remembered I did have something. Mark, were you able to connect with USDA about the $250,000 grant for community solar? Cindy Chadwick?
We did exchange information back and forth. I did talk to her, and based on the way that the grant was at the time, it wasn't something that would work for us. But if we decide, because basically you apply and then they tell you several months later whether or not you were approved. You can't start construction until they tell you that you're approved, because if you do, then whatever they told you were going to get, you won't get. And at the time we were anticipating starting construction, and significantly before they would make any kind of decision as to grants. That obviously, based on my discussion earlier, may change. And so we may be able to resurrect that conversation. I did see your emails and her response that she wasn't sure whether or not we had or not. We did. We had a conversation.
Well, it's free money on the table. So my understanding was that their timeline would be to announce grants in the spring, and it seems unlikely we're going to build before then anyway. So might be a good opportunity.
Yes.
Richard.
Nothing, no meeting.
Carl, you got anything?
Yeah, we had a tri-state meeting Tuesday and Wednesday if you want to hear about that.
Let's hear about it.
The committee meetings, my committee, the E&O committee, reported that Tri-State is moving out of the Excel Balancing Authority, and we're moving over to WAPA. Basically, it's a cost savings. They're estimating the savings to be around $300,000 a year. There was a report about the solar industry being up in the air. At this point right now with the supply chain issues is, getting the panels to the United States, since most of them are made in China. Then the issue of the forced labor to make the panels. There may be a moratorium on that from a lot of the Asian countries, Vietnam, Malaysia. I don't remember the other one, because those panels are coming from China kind of in a raw state, and then they finish them off in those countries. The uncertainty of the future of the tax credit with the Build Back Better bill up in the air. There's been an 18% price increase in 2021 on solar panels. It could affect the PPAs that Tri-State is under now that are not built yet. There's six of those projects in the works, and it's not really clear whether some of those companies will pull out of them because of the price increase or not. So it's kind of up in the air. The Niwal wind project came online with 200 megawatts of wind out on the Eastern Plains, and it's owned by NextEra, which is a good addition to the renewable portfolio of Tri-State. And one other thing about the solar deals, if any of those projects fall through, Tri-State may be in a little bit of trouble about meeting the required emissions things from the state of Colorado. The rate committee has been selected. Liz has been appointed. The first meeting will be in February. I don't think you've been notified yet, Liz, but it should be coming here pretty quick. Tri-State is going to have strategic planning February 1st and 2nd. Some of the issues on the planning are the RTO, the cost reduction, the formula rate, and FERC update. Dwayne gave a report. Reg Rudolph from San Isabel, I think Mark sent out an email on this, will go to work for Tri-State to try to start an entity for Tri-State to sell solar to members, and mostly in the renewable stuff and the beneficial electrification issue. There was some fairly good news that Dwayne reported about the COVID deal. Utilities won't be considered a federal contractor under the vaccine mandate. And most of that is up in the air with the judge ruling on it anyway. But anyway, the utilities won't be considered a federal contractor. We'll take a vote. We'll talk about it and take a vote in January on the possibility of opening up a new season for partial requirements. There's 100 megawatts left. And Yemenez, a co-op out of New Mexico, is having some issues with the tribes down there. They are looking to go to renewable energy, and the co-op wants to keep them as a customer. And so they put in a request to possibly want around 20 megawatts under the partial requirements contract. If the board chooses to reopen that, they will honor the 200 megawatts that Poudre Valley, San Miguel, and there was the third one. Can't remember it right now, but they will honor their commitment for the 200 megawatts, and then the 100 megawatts that are left, depending on who might want some of that, that will be allocated out to a total of the 100 megawatts. Tri-State is considering and probably will have to spend around $250 million to upgrade the transmission in eastern Colorado, since they got out of the Colorado Pathway project that was proposed by XL. There's a lot of issues with that, but transmission has been working on some changes and some bills that will enhance Tri-State's transmission extensively to bring more wind from eastern Colorado into the system, and also if wind goes in Wyoming, it will connect to that also. And then the board approved a $10 million FIFO patronage capital payment. I think the option is still going to be to take it either in December or January. And then the 2022 budget was approved. And that's all I have unless there's questions.
You said the and co-op in Mexico was having an issue with drives, or what were they having an issue with?
I missed that.
Tribes.
Tribes. Okay.
Oh yeah, the Indian tribes.
Uh-huh.
They're under some contracts with the co-op, and they're expiring, and they want to go to more renewable. They can get federal dollars for that pretty easily. The co-op would like to keep them as a customer.
Mm-hmm.
So they think that they can build the generation themselves if they can get a partial requirements contract.
Gotcha. Thank you.
On that $250 million upgrade to transmission, Carl, when do they think that those projects will be completed?
Well, there's some of them that are approved by the board now. One of them is there's 3 projects, but it has to go through some, siting issues, and they have to be approved. So they're expecting that they will have those done by possibly 2026.
The other question I had, because I was just looking at balancing areas, authorities, how do WEC and WAPA relate? Does WAPA?
WAC, you mean WACM?
I mean, the Western Area Coordinating Council.
Well, what they're going to is WAPA handles them both, but they call the balancing authority part of it WACM, and they're both WAPA entities.
Okay. And do you think there'll be any reliability? I mean, they've looked at, as far as reliability and balancing, WAPA's just as good or better than having Excel do it? I mean, I understand cost savings, but I also understand, I mean, I don't know where we really got in a pinch last winter, but for us, was that a WAPA line or I mean, it was a WAPA that issued the call.
Well, they explained it to us that we are more connected to WAPA than XL. XL is kind of an island in the state, you know, around the Denver area. There's several other entities that are going to get out of the balancing authority of XL, and that's CSU, and I think Platte River Power. But XL has really been taking advantage of Tri-State and these other entities because a lot of that power has to pass through them. But they say it will be more reliable with WAPA because we have more in line with WAPA. So.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else, Carl?
That's it.
Okay. As Mark said, we had a joint managers meeting, CREA. I think it went pretty good. I just sent those strategic planning goals out as well as the notes for that managers meeting. I think it went pretty well, Mark, didn't you?
Yes.
So take a look at those notes. If you have any questions, comments, let me know. As we've been talking about, it's been brought up a few times. CRA has found sponsors for the microgrid bill that would allocate $5 million into DOLA, and it would be managed by DOLA, and it would likely be a matching grant process. So hopefully we'll get some traction on that. And CRA is also exploring broadband lobbying possibilities. And there's a couple general manager openings out there. It looks like Jim Heron from Mountain View is retiring. And as Carl said, and Mark, Reg Rudolph left San Isabel to go to Tri-State. And Jack Johnston has parted ways with Southeast. So they'll be looking for new general managers. I think that's all I got, unless anybody has any questions. Okay. Do we have any emergency business?
Well,
No.
Jeff, I didn't get a question. I didn't get my question out quick enough.
Oh, I'm sorry.
What did you guys think about the speaker and how was he received? It was hard to tell how he was received.
I think he was received well. He was really good. Yeah.
What do you speak on?
He
Oh, the
was
fire thing?
Peter Sheehan.
Yeah.
I can't remember his last name. Yeah. It was interesting.
He was sort of a business strategist, alignment sort of guru. And
yeah.
I mean, he talked about businesses that failed to see trends, starting with grocery stores and their stock prices plummeting when Amazon announced they were going to do grocery delivery, and the kind of the responses of those grocery stores, like, well, we couldn't have seen this coming. So it was it was sort of an interesting, well, it was a very interesting presentation, but it also it's like any of these presentations you go to, you listen to it and you're like, wow, oh my God. And then you're like, how do you actually, one, do you critically question what they're saying and how it would affect your business? And then how do you move your organization? If you think it's actually a valid, that some of the ideas are valid, how do you move towards them? So I think it's recorded. I think they were gonna record it and.
They did.
Yeah, yeah.
It'd be worth a listen to all of you. He's kind of a little bit in your face, provocative speaker, but very honest, I thought, by the end of his speech. Super honest about leadership as well.
And he sounded like he was either a Kiwi or an Aussie.
He was an Aussie.
Yeah. He sounds like he commands quite a price to speak and coach. But his office was right across he's in downtown Denver. And Kent Singer was able to touch base with him, and he agreed to come speak to us. And I think CFC picked up the bill for it, so
they did.
It didn't cost. Yeah, it didn't cost CRA anything. And
yeah, the one thing, well, there are a couple of things. So I'd kind of urge everyone on the board, if you've got an hour, to listen to it, and probably senior staff too. It will challenge some of your assumptions. But, and now I forgot my other point, which was actually the more important point. Anyway, watch it and see what you think.
okay, thanks, Liz. We got any emergency business, Mark?
No.
How about any old business?
Not that I'm aware of.
Any new business? Oh, who's that?
Kristen, just a quick question. On the agenda, we skipped from 15 to 17. Was there supposed to be like a 16?
No, I think it's just the numbering is off.
Okay.
Any new business? Do we have a need for a Mount Park Services meeting? No.
No.
Okay. Well, that takes us to executive session.
And I believe that based on the items that I have listed for executive session, we should be able to go through them relatively quickly. So I would say that we at least start it, and we will probably be done by noon, unless I'm missing something that we would talk about in executive session. What I had was employee housing, the Winter Park land, and the cyber attack.
Okay.
Did you have anything else, Jeff?
Nope, that's it. Anybody else got anything else to add to that? Okay.
Well, I had a question real quick. Mark, did
Go
you
ahead,
want
Levi.
to, Mark, did you want to wait 100% until next month for the Windy Gap, or did you want to have any discussion this month?
I think we will wait and give the board a chance to digest the amount of electronic paper that we sent.
Perfect. Just want to make sure before we went in.
One addition, could we just speak very briefly about community solar?
Sure.
Okay.
So that's
so we need
Winter Park land, what in community solar?
Cyber attack and community solar, in addition to the employee housing that was already there.
I move to go into executive session to discuss employee housing, Winter Park land, cyber attack, and community solar.
Second.
Had a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Anybody opposed? Okay.